We're back with another episode of the Metal Blade podcast, still under quarantine, of course, and we're trying to figure out technology and having issues, and that's kind of the thing everybody's dealing with right now. I don't know if you guys saw this. I'm joined here by Riley McShane from Allegiant and Ryan Williams, also of Metal Blade. Last night, the Comedy Store did an episode on YouTube where they had comedians essentially doing hour-long podcasts and raising money for Comedy Store staff.
Oh, how did that go?
It went all right. I watched a little bit of each of the hours, and the final hour they advertised as Neil Brennan, Bill Burr, and Donnell Rawlings with a special guest. Now, if you remember anything about comedy, you know that all three of those people were on the Chappelle Show. Right. Neil Brennan was one of the main writers, the partner of Chappelle. So it didn't take a rocket surgeon to realize that Chappelle would be the special guest. And that broadcast was marred by audio and video issues. And those are people with budgets.
Wow. So were they remote or were they live?
Everyone was remote, live.
Okay.
Being somebody at the Comedy Store or whomever was serving as the tech hub and relaying instructions as needed. And there was one person from each hour that looked like they were kind of running the show.
Mm-hmm.
At the Bill Burr hour, it was Neil Brennan that kicked it off and jumped in with everybody else. And I watched a few minutes of it, and they were kind of dealing with audio issues where someone would be way more quiet. It was pretty entertaining, though, and they raised a lot of money for staffers at the Comedy Store.
That's cool.
That clearly just need help because we're talking about the wait staff and things. So it's pretty wild. We're in kind of a weird place where even if you're not good at technology, if you want to operate in the entertainment sphere at all, if you're a comedian, a band, whatever, you kind of have to be able to troubleshoot on your own, to figure out things. As in this, how do we do the Metal Blade podcast if we all can't be in the same room? So we're all helping each other. And that's what's really cool coming out of a lot of this is we're helping a lot of artists figure out how to stream and navigate this new space that some people might not be as familiar with.
Oh, yeah. When this whole thing first started, I made a couple social blasts offering services in helping people figure out Streamlabs and Twitch and all that stuff. And a surprisingly large number of people contacted me. And it's cool because it's good to see those communities grow in that regard.
Yeah. And I don't know, man, it's the longer this goes, the more it becomes apparent that artists outside of royalties and sound exchange and merch and touring, it's just so crucial for fans to have a way to contribute directly. And I realize we've probably beaten this over the head a few times before, but since the last time we've talked, I've had other artists come to me or I've gone to them and kind of just to see how they're doing. And the amount of subscribers they're seeing grow on Twitch and the people that want to support, I think they've found that they're surprised that that's the case.
Oh yeah.
So
I think a lot of people take it not for granted, but just because they're unfamiliar with it, they write it off as being not viable. And then once they actually start doing it, they're kind of like, oh wow, this works really well. I mean, I know Matt, for one example, has said in multiple interviews that he makes so much more when he's at home streaming than he does when he's on tour. And those are, pretty high ticket tour numbers. It's not like...
Yeah, Matt Heafy from Trivium. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Trivium's getting paid a couple $100 a night. He's making good money out on the road. So to imagine that he's making, significantly more than that when he's at home streaming is proof in the pudding that it's a really viable way to stay connected with your fans and generate revenue. So I'm just glad to see everyone doing it finally, because I've been ringing this bell for a few years with a lot of my friends and colleagues in the industry.
Yeah, Blake from BT Bam was streaming, playing along to 90 songs. Last night, I don't know if you saw it, Ryan, but Trevor Sternad from the Black Dahlia Murder. Is that how you say it, Sternad?
Sternad.
Sternad. That's how I've always said it. So, okay, good. That's a relief. He beat Final Fantasy 1 for NES. He has this cool ass little analog NT
with all fighters.
With all, warriors or fighters.
Yeah.
I never played Final Fantasy 1, so I don't know how that game works, but I watched a little bit of that recap just a little bit ago, and then Trevor posted on Twitter that he beat Final Fantasy 1 with all warriors, and he had this graphic with the brothers Unk, because they were like punk, lunk, monk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I just watched a little bit of his stream before this, and he had a BRB graphic with an 8-bit character in a bed with an 8-bit Nightbringers song playing. So it's been really cool to see him go from kind of dinking around and figure out streaming to actually adding features with Streamlabs OBS to make the stream have that kind of production value that makes it look better. And it really doesn't take that much effort. Riley, you've done a hell of a lot of streaming. And Streamlabs OBS, I don't think it's very intuitive. It takes a minute. But once you kind of figure it out, I think it's super fun.
It does. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but exactly. Once you get it locked down, it's so easy to just utilize all those tools and apply them to your layout and play around with stuff. I've recently been kind of doing a deeper dive into layout stuff and using this thing called a Stream Deck, which is basically just a series of buttons. I think mine is 15, 3 rows of 5. And you can use it. You connect it to your, you connect it to your computer, and it gets picked up by Streamlabs. And then basically you program your scenes into the Stream Deck, so you have a physical interface that you can just like press a button on, and it'll switch it to different scenes. There's this streamer, God, I want to say his name is like Sushi Ninja or something like that. And if you want to watch the most insane thing you have ever seen, look this dude up on Twitch. Just watch some of his highlights. Basically, he has like 6 or 7 Stream Decks just like taped to his arms, and he does the craziest shit I have ever seen on a live broadcast. Like the scene transitions and the effects that he uses are just so insane. And he does it all live using a series of Stream Decks that are all like taped to him. It's amazing.
Say his name again so I can look it up.
I want to say it's Sushi Ninja.
Okay.
I have someone sent me some stuff of his in my Facebook messages. Let me pull this up real quick.
That's cool. So there's a lot of options. I think that's the other thing that people maybe don't realize is you don't just have to play video games and talk. Or
no, you can do anything.
Like Bo from Harm's Way recently was playing Rocksmith. And I didn't realize how cool of a game that actually is.
It's awesome. I played it years ago trying to learn how to play guitar under the delusion it would work, but yeah.
Yeah, and he was playing White Zombie and like, I don't know, Deftones and like all this stuff. And it was really, really fun to watch. So I think that there's more options than people really think there are too.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for musicians.
I say under the delusion it would work. And I mean that specifically for me. And that Rocksmith, the way it works, if you've never played it, Ryan, is that as you play the song, it increases in difficulty as it sees that you're learning the song.
That's really cool.
So once you get up to speed, you're actually playing the proper chords. But at the beginning, it's a bit as if it's Rock Band on easy mode, where you might just be hitting the E string. But yeah, Bo's doing a world tour in teen, and he's seeing some really cool growth in streaming from that, in Twitch and subscribers. And yeah, like we keep harping on, bands have fans that want to support.
It's a fun hang too.
Yeah, I just tweeted this, and I totally, it's, we have the luxury, especially now, of time to think about these things. And what is Twitch or streaming in general? It's time. And when there are musicians and artists that you enjoy their work, there's almost kind of a mythical, kind of weird pedestal you put them on in your brain, right? Like there's tons of death metal bands that just are death metal fans that love death metal bands that outside of a death metal show, they can go to the grocery store. No one cares who they are.
Right.
But in their worlds, they're giant stars for a lot of really just crazy, wild fans, like the Blasphemes or Black Dahlia Murder. And what people such as Trevor Snad really are doing is exchanging their time for fans to be able to interact with them and support directly. And that's a fucking cool thing. There's no intermediary there outside of Twitch. It's fans interacting directly with the people that they enjoy the art from.
Totally.
Right? Like it's just the basic thing. And it's you could talk about it forever in that regard, but when you break it down to its simplest term, I think some artists are uncomfortable accepting things like Patreon. But when you really look at it that way, you're exchanging time for support. It's totally an acceptable, reasonable thing to be doing.
Absolutely. Well, and how many of Trevor's fans weren't even alive when that Final Fantasy game was released?
Oh my God, yeah.
So now
So
they
many.
get to go back and kind of see this retro game and see where a lot of the games that they love today started from. And yeah, it's just really cool.
Yeah,
that streamer's name is the Sushi Dragon, by the way, not to completely derail.
No.
That's who it is. It's the Sushi Dragon, all one word, and he is an absolute insane person.
I'm gonna check that out.
Anyway,
That's cool.
no, it's you're completely right. It's a really cool way for that direct engagement that you can't find on any other platform. I mean, other than platforms that are similar to Twitch, like Mixer and Facebook Live. But you can't really get that level of interaction in a direct way with your fans doing anything else, and haven't been able to up until this point in time, just for the past few years since this has been a publicly accessible medium. And it's been really cool to be a part of and to see grow, and to see now all these people that are helping that community of online musicians grow in such a fashion and in a direction that gives them the ability to directly engage with their communities and their fans like this.
I have a question for you guys. Do you think that you can play sort of any genre of game that you're into, or should you try to pick something that's more popular like Fortnite or...
No. I think you should do whatever you want, because people are going to be there for you. They're not there for the game you're playing. And even with popular games, it's like Dr. Disrespect, Shroud, Tim the Tatman, Ninja, actual big time video game streamers are playing those really popular games. So if someone's going to go watch a Call of Duty stream or a Fortnite stream, they're going to go watch those masters.
And you're
play
never
it.
going to be better than them at those games.
Right. And exactly. And even if you were better than them, they already have the visibility. They already have the fans. Every time Dr. Disrespect goes on, 40, 50,000 people are watching him.
Right.
It's one of those things where your fans are there for you and your personality and your engagement, and you could be playing retro games to musical games to MMOs. I've had success on stream playing just about everything, from Super Mario World to PS1 JRPGs like Breath of Fire and Final Fantasy, older ones like Chrono Trigger. I've played Diablo 3 online. I've done World of Warcraft, tons of stuff. And they've all been great streams.
That leads me to another question. Do you have to consistently play the same type game or the same game every time? Or can you rotate games? Or can you even rotate between, today I'm playing my actual guitar to my band songs, and the next day I'm playing a game I really like? Is that acceptable? Or
100%. I think consistency can be key. Depending on what you're going for. If you're trying to really play to your audience as a musician, I think that music-based stuff is obviously going to be what has the biggest draw. But when I first started streaming, I had it was like every day of the week was a different thing. I was hitting the variety streamer thing super hard, and using that method, I managed to get affiliate status within a week or two.
Nice.
Yeah, and since then it's been, a little bit more of a challenge. I started touring a lot more over the past few years, and touring from the road is super difficult.
Streaming from the road.
Right. Streaming from the road, sorry.
Touring, what is that?
Touring from the road. What is this? But no, streaming from the road is super difficult. It takes a lot of extra steps.
How many venues have good internet?
0.
Oh, almost none. Yeah.
Almost
that's why
none.
when people say, hey, why don't bands stream more shows? Ultimately, that's the reason. Venues operate with really lean margins, and generally speaking, probably have one of the cheapest internet packages you can probably buy, because every dollar of overhead matters.
Yeah.
Right.
So streaming from a show is complex on a technical level, and complex on the level of, the venue probably has shit Wi-Fi in anyway.
And you can pay ISPs or usually cell phone providers to get hotspots
Sure.
that you can take with you, and you can have like a strong 5G connection. But that's expensive for
Yes.
one.
Super expensive, yeah.
The other thing is that depending on your provider, you might not have the greatest cell reception, and it's like in the venue. And if the venue is in a basement or down a few flight of stairs, or so
Game
many
over,
different things
man.
in an iron building, like there's so many different things that can contribute to poor signal strength. So,
and to that end about consistency, Trevor, like we just said, he beat Final Fantasy 1 last night with 4 warriors. And when he started playing Final Fantasy 1, I remember kind of thinking, oh, that'll be cool to see a little bit of this game. No, he fucking beat it on stream. Yep. And I think that adds a lot of legitimacy to what he's doing, and that he had the stick-to-itiveness to finish a complete game.
Well, that's actually where my question came from, because I think there is something to, it's a series and you're watching, you want to come back and see these characters that you saw in the last stream and see him progress in the game.
Yeah.
And there's something to like, oh, I want to come back and watch the next part, and like you're watching that progression. Whereas if he would have went from Final Fantasy and then switched to another game, it might have been less compelling. So I get that there's no hard and fast rules, but I think that some kind of consistency or thread through there is a compelling factor.
It really depends on the game that you're playing. If you're playing something like Final Fantasy, for example, or an RPG or a story-based game like that, you do need to, I think, play it from start to finish consecutively throughout your stream. Like, you don't want to have someone playing Final Fantasy VII every Tuesday.
Right.
That's ridiculous. However, I do feel, based off my experience, that playing open-ended games like Diablo or Call of Duty or Fortnite or whatever, that are just kind of open-ended, no story, match by match. Super Smash Brothers is another one that did really well for me. People are engaged in that a little bit more because of its non-committalness, I guess. It's a terrible way to say that, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just easier to tune in and watch something like that, rather than, because when you play something consecutively like that, for the people who are tuning in to watch the game and not follow the cult of personality thing, you end up with people who will jump into your stream 3 days into a playthrough, and luckily you can make highlight reels and people can kind of catch up relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But you still run the risk of people hopping into your room, having no idea what's going on because you're 4 days out of 7 in the middle of playing a game that has a long, cohesive storyline.
Right.
And they'll just bail.
Right.
They'll just get over it and take off,
that
rather than putting in the extra time to watch your highlight reels and watch your past streams. Because, streams are usually, it's like you said, it's a time thing. Usually streams are pretty long. It's few hours, and if you're already 3 or 4 days into a stream schedule and playing the same game over and over again, if someone really wants to catch up, they have to spend 8 to 10 hours doing so. So it's difficult. There's a very, not necessarily particular, but there's a marketing strategy for sure, and a way to go about it. But if you have a following, that's number one kind of thing. It's people like Trevor who already have, clout and a following. It's much easier for people like them to get started streaming, doing really whatever they want, because people aren't going there to be like, oh, my love of retro games has brought me to this Final Fantasy 1 stream. Like, there's going to be some people that are like that, but if he's got high numbers, it's because he's Trevor, and he has that big fan base.
I just wanted to add, one of the things that Twitch did say at TwitchCon 2019 is they were working on adding a feature so that Twitch streamers could add an actual schedule to their page in a way that was more akin to a calendar.
That makes sense.
And they're doing that because a lot of the ways that people communicate Twitch schedules are just on the screen that shows up when you're offline on the video, and on graphics that show up on Twitter, which are fine, but there's no way for Twitch programmatically, I believe is the word they use, to ingest that on their end.
Okay.
So if there's a schedule that people are creating of streams, Twitch knows what's happening and can can create editorial content on their end and promote things more effectively. So if scheduling wasn't important, I feel Twitch would not be doing that. And that's really where being consistent and creating a schedule, once you kind of get in there, dip your toes in, it becomes a little bit more important to be doing.
Got it.
It really is. That's the number one thing for successful streaming is you need to be consistent with your schedule more than anything. If you are going to be streaming, even if you're only streaming like 3 days a week, doing so at the same time is so important. Like if you're streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you say you're going to be streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 5 p.m., like sticking to that schedule is so important. It's debatably the most important thing about seeing success as a streamer, because your viewers know it's like watching a television show. No one's going to watch a TV show that comes on at a different time and day every week because it's too much work to try to figure that out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's the same kind of thing with being a streamer. If people know what days and what time you're going to be on, they'll tune in and they'll come and they'll watch. But if you're inconsistent with your schedule, it will severely damage your visibility and your viewers' interest. Sorry, I'm speaking kind of staggeredly because I'm looking. You mentioned that thing about this calendar, and it's funny because I have a calendar on my Twitch page. I just don't think it's ran through Twitch.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a feature they've gone live with yet. I don't think so.
No, but there's been third-party ones. Let me look down here. Yeah, I have a schedule that is run by Streamlabs. Streamlabs stream schedule and countdown, and it's a pretty, it's a neat little interface, and it counts down to when I'm supposed to be streaming and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
there's ways to it.
They also said at TwitchCon that they were working on native streaming software, so you wouldn't have to use tools such as OBS. And they did say those are some of the best tools out there. They just also want to have their own.
Right.
So it's a continuously growing and just living, breathing thing, because it's still relatively new in the world of media. And it's something, look, death metal and what we do in the metal worlds, people often comment, metal should do X. Well, we fucking can't because no one cares.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the fact that Spotify replies to our emails at all is a minor miracle, because what metal streams compared to mainstream is insignificant. So, and I'm not saying that is a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the reality of metal as a genre. It's a small niche thing that we fucking love, but we kind of exist on the periphery of the mainstream. That's not a damn secret. Mm-hmm. But what it really means is that we kind of are left to follow what the major companies decide. If people are on Twitch, watching Twitch, that's watching people do things. That's where our artists have to go. If people are listening to music on Spotify, that's where our artists have to go.
Right.
That's it. There's been so many people that come out of the woodwork and say, why don't you start your own thing? Well, we can't.
Yeah.
The amount of money it takes to launch an app or to launch a native video streaming service is just far beyond the budgets of any label or individual band out there. Unless you're a giant country star or a giant pop star, you have to go where people already are. And it kind of makes it a little bit frustrating at times, because we have to use the services that, a lot of metal people just don't care about using Apple Music or Spotify. I mean, they certainly should. If you're going to listen to music online, you should be using one of those services so that the artists have those metrics and numbers. Mm-hmm. But we're not saying don't play vinyl. You know what I mean? It's just, there's this misconception out there, and it's especially frustrating because people will post comments this week. The Black Dahlia Murder is overrated. Look, man, they're still not going to outsell the Black Album this week, and their record just came out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's,
well, maybe for 1 week they will outsell it.
For 1 week, it might outsell the Black Album. And even the Black Album is on the fringes of mainstream for the most part. I know, Ryan, we were going back and forth with some information on streaming, and you had looked up that The Weeknd, their single "Blinding Lights" had streamed 800 million times since November.
Yeah, that was me. I looked that up.
No, that was Riley. Sorry, it was you, Riley.
Got it.
Yeah, that was it came out last November, I want to say, or at least that's when it's hard for me to tell because the YouTube official audio dropped in November, but it could have been scheduled and not come out till later. The album in full, the newest Weeknd album, which is amazing, by the way. As a synthwave fan, I know you're a big one, Vince.
Oh yeah,
it's basically it's a synthwave record. It's so good. It blew my mind. And it's cool seeing synthwave get mainstream exposure like that. But I digress. That album came out in March, at the end of March, like March 20th or something like that. And since then has grossed well over 1 billion streams in total.
Wow.
I'm going to look it up on Spotify right now.
With single songs that have only been out for a few months, less than half a year at almost 800 million streams. The Weeknd has 64 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Compare that to, say, let's do 2 quick comparisons. Amon Amarth has 1 million. And Killswitch Engage has 1.9 million right now. And look, those numbers fluctuate based on how old albums are. Right.
So when a band has a new record coming out, their monthly listeners always shoot up. But look, Twilight of the Thunder God by Amon Amarth has been out for what, a decade? When did Twilight come out? I remember that was a very exciting time because that was the biggest record Amon Amarth had put out.
I believe it's been over 10 years, yeah.
That came out in 2008.
Yep.
That single is Twilight of the Thunder God is Amon Amarth's biggest song, period. Every streaming service, YouTube, 42 million streams since 2008 on Amon Amarth's biggest song. The Weeknd has had a song out for a couple weeks, and it's 768 million streams. So that's kind of what we're talking about when, metal, we have to really be, and I think it's important that we're cognizant of where we stand in the greater scheme of things, because it just allows us to make appropriate decisions and send emails with the appropriate level of urgency. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like sorry, Spotify, to bother you. Here's what we're looking at doing, kind of thing. And that's not to say that's what we do, but to know those realities really makes you more effective at what you're doing, I think.
Do you think the popularity difference is a function of the amount of bands there are, or just the fact that the genre itself is so much smaller than, say, pop?
I think
Metal's
it's the genre.
Just smaller. Yeah,
I think it's the genre for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's easy to do pop or to get popular in pop.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably as many, if not more, small pop and up-and-coming bands in that world. But it also works differently, right? I mean, the major label world, the way it works with finding pop acts and putting bands together is just different.
It's a whole... Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It just is different. It's as different as active rock radio to underground death metal. Sure, on the surface, they might seem to be in the same universe, but that's realistically, it's a whole different crop of booking agents, managers, labels, etc. It's just a different world with a different level of expectations and just a different way that it functions.
It's a whole different animal. And it's crazy how it works because that long gone idea of being a totally small time artist and getting picked up by a major label and having, tons and tons of money thrown at you to become an international pop star is still a real thing in pop music.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not in rock and metal anymore.
No.
There was a time when it was, but like I said, it's like a long gone idea now, but it still happens in pop. But the thing about that is that because you have that happening in pop and because you have, the Billie Eilishes of the world, the underground scene is super hungry, because they know that that's a possibility for them. Recently, Allegiant played at this venue in LA called the Hi-Hat. And it was a sick show, right? It was, that
was a good one. Yeah. That was
you guys
super
were there.
fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. It was a good show, decent turnout, fun production.
Paladin fucking ripped.
Paladin was so good. We made a killing in merch. It was a great night overall. several weeks after that tour ended, I went and saw a alt pop artist play there with a friend of mine because I love pop music. It's no secret. And I saw this kind of underground pop artist, and she has a pretty decent following online. She's been around for a while. She's collaborated with a lot of people. Her streaming numbers are pretty solid. And the turnout at that show was maybe half of what came out for Allegiant in the middle of the week. And on top of that, the merch options were super limited. It just seemed like everyone was going there because they wanted an excuse to go out and hang out and drink and mingle and you know, present themselves to other people in the scene and network. And just seeing that stark contrast in the same room, only weeks apart from each other, really kind of shifted things into perspective for me as to how really different those two worlds are. But this artist, her name is Mathika. She works super hard. Like, she hustles every day on social media. I've been following her for, you know, years and years now. And, you know, it's like I said, she's super hungry. You know what I mean? And it's really obvious. And I think that a lot of metal bands who have that hunger and have that drive to be successful could definitely take a note out of the pop star in the makings book to push, you know, exhibit that hunger a little bit more, and people will notice for sure.
Well, this is a decent segue into one of the notes that you had made. One of the things you wanted to get to on this, Riley, on this podcast, and I actually wanted to address it as well because there's something I think you didn't know. So the Corellia debacle.
Oh, yeah.
With them crowdfunding an album. Not only do they have a cool name because it's a Star Wars reference, but the album they put out previously, or was it an EP? I don't remember at this point.
I think it was an EP.
It's absolutely incredible.
It's really good.
One of the first shows they played ever as a live album or a live group was at the Whiskey A Go-Go in Hollywood, and it was near sold out. I was there. They were at the time managed by some people I know. One of them is formerly in a band, another progressive band, and he works in management and venues now. I'm not going to say who it was, but really good people that I really truly respect were helping the band out. And I think we might have taken the meeting with the band right before they were on board. In any case, this was quite a long time ago, and I don't exactly recall. But the band came to the Metal Blade offices for a meeting, and they seemed to be pretty cool guys. They were the kind of guys that you could tell they were kind of just getting started on the business side, and were kind of trying to figure things out. And they ended up not signing with us, and they went off and did the crowdfunding thing. And holy shit, did that not work out?
Yeah, did that not work out? And it's you know, it's, I don't want to throw stones at cripples here too much, because it's a sad situation. And if you read the statement that they released not so long ago addressing the whole thing, it seems very genuine and very sincere that they, you know, really did hit a lot of roadblocks involving, you know, mental illness between band members and people just completely bailing on the project, and, you know, things that can irrevocably damage a band and their progress. That being said, if you crowdfund $35,000 to make an album independently, speaking as someone who knows how much albums cost and how much it costs to put out a good album with good marketing and all that kind of stuff, like, you get that shit done within a year. Period. Like, it's very hard to elicit sympathy from me in this situation.
So I'm not familiar with their story. So they crowdfunded the album and then
just disappeared.
Okay. Okay.
For years, just total ghosts, and never made updates to their fans, never released an album. And the last time they made a statement was in like 2016. By the way, I should say that I think it was 2013 that they launched the crowdfunding thing. 2013, and, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, but like 2013, they launched this thing, didn't make a peep until 2016, in which they basically said, like, hey, we're still working on it.
That sounds familiar. And dude, I really feel for him. Some serious bad shit had to have happened for that to go down. And I really do feel like they were how many stories do we all know of bands that were just on the cusp, just right there, but internal strife ruins it all? I mean, look, Rivers and Isle is becoming one of the biggest bands on the label, and when they first started, everybody in the band, when they first signed, was like, yes, this is what we're doing. Cut the 3 albums later, how many members left?
Yeah.
When you get right down to it, and we beat this over the head over and over again, but it's because it's such a legitimate issue. Touring and being in a band as an actual profession beyond the hobbyist weekend warrior thing is nothing to be fucked with.
No.
And you can find out real quick, it sounds like a good idea after you've watched a bunch of VH1 Behind the Musics. And then when you get out there and do it, you're like, I don't want to have another Subway sandwich or eat 7-Eleven again today.
Yeah. It's not easy, especially in metal.
Yeah.
It's not an easy life to be in a touring metal band by any means. It gets to, there's a turning point for sure where you start getting more comfortable, but there's generally, unspoken rule of you have to go out there and just eat shit for like 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Before you see any kind of financial stability or even, stability with your following. It takes a long time and a lot of hard work and like major losses in quality of life.
Right.
But it's worth it. And you do it because you love it. And I think that there is definitely something to be said on that regarding the whole Corellia situation. I think that if they did the crowdfunding thing as a touring band rather than as an up and coming band that had not really solidified themselves as being like, here we are, we're here to stay, we're touring, we're playing these shows, doing this kind of stuff, it would have gone a lot better. And I can sympathize on that front.
When did all that stuff happen? After they did their first US tour with Misery Signals.
Right.
So there you go. They did a tour, the wheels fell off.
Which platform did they use for the crowdfunding?
I don't remember.
Kickstarter, I want to say.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but on Kickstarter, if the product doesn't actually come out, isn't there a way to get your money back, or does it not work like that?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I'm actually not sure which platform they use.
I just wonder if
That's
all
a good
those
question.
bands are just out that money, or if there's any kind of recourse they have,
No,
Yeah.
they're for sure out that money.
Yeah.
And in their recent statement, they said they never spent any of the money on, to personally enrich themselves, and they've always only put any of the money that they made into the production of the album and
Well, where's
all
the
this
album?
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing is it's 2020 and there's still no album. And when you read past all the we're sorries and we're trying and all this shitty stuff happened to us, the statement kind of ends with this open-ended, more announcements coming soon kind of vibe. And just if you don't have a hey, we're really sorry, here's the release date or something of that sort, just stay gone. But what happened was that they got trolled out of hiding, essentially, because someone started a Facebook page called Corellia's in pluracy, in which they were like, hey, I'm an ex-member of the band. I don't talk to those guys anymore. Had to start this new profile. The record's done. I'll be making updates on releasing it soon. And the band thought that it was a serious thing because, as it turns out, there actually is a member of the band that has totally bailed and they've lost complete contact with. So they thought it was him. And then days later, after they released an initial statement addressing the fake page, the master troll behind it, this dude named Tim Ossenfort, who is pretty active in the metal social media world, came forward and was like, yep, it's me. And then, and then the band was kind of forced into releasing an actual huge statement about the whole thing. But dollars to donuts, in my opinion, they're just going to disappear again.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So-
that's probably the case, and it sucks because, I mean, they were a fantastic band.
They were
They were
really
great
good.
live. I loved it. The show was fantastic years ago. And I remember telling their managers at the time, like, look, let me know when the record's done. We'd love to talk. These guys are fantastic. But even at the time, and this was one of our reservations, was that they had not gone out and done a real tour. And all of this, might shine a negative light on crowdfunding, but that's not really what it's doing, right? There's more positive stories probably for crowdfunding than negative, but what it really does highlight is when we go to sign a band, it's really in our best interest to do as much homework as possible to make sure we're not walking into some situation like this.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it doesn't still happen on occasion, but there's been bands in the last 3 years that I was really interested in, and I've had a little bit of contact with to try to get the story. Where are you all from? Where does everybody live? Do you have a van?
Mm-hmm.
How is your merch set up? Just all the basic day one music business questions, just to see if they have their I's crossed and T's dotted. And they all say it's fine. And then I ask people they've toured with who are Metal Blade artists, and the response I got back in one instance was, no, that main guy's on meth and everybody in the band quit.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
they didn't mention any of that. So you just don't know. And it's music attracts some weird people. And that's not to say that that's always a bad thing, but you got to be real careful with who you put your chips behind on that craps table of the music business.
Absolutely.
It's
It's such a volatile business, and everyone wants to be in it,
Yeah.
If you make music, that's kind of the dream. At least that's the first step of it. Is it's I just got signed to this record label with a good rep, and we're out here, we're doing stuff, we're making moves, and people will lie to you to make that happen. People will for sure, when you ask them those day one questions, be like, yeah, dude, everything's totally golden, and then immediately call their bandmates being like, hey, dudes, like, we need to buy a van. It's
You'll never see the article on Metal Sucks or whatever. I don't, I like the Metal Sucks dudes, but it's so common, right, that labels are shady. But there's a lot of shady agents, managers, and bands out there. I mean, there's shadiness everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really about, if you're signing to a label, have an entertainment lawyer look over the contract, negotiate with the label. If there's terms on there you don't like, tell them, and they'll probably work it out. But you got to have an entertainment lawyer look at it. You can't have a traffic attorney look at it, because you need someone that speaks that language and knows what's appropriate in those cases.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things where you really, really have to have your ducks in the row. Ryan, I don't know if you saw Kareem for Night Shift was tweeting this week about bands and merch and how one person from a band collects merch, and he was kind of hypothesizing
I did see
what
that.
happens when a band breaks up and you're just kind of emailing this one person and sending them all the money. I sure hope they're dealing with that properly. You know what I mean?
I think
Like,
that's
there's
very common, and people don't realize it, that one guy ends up being, whether it's intentional or not, he ends up being the business guy for the band, and all of the business goes through him. And a lot of the other members, if they're not actively engaged with that person or asking or wanting to be involved, they don't know the inner workings of the business side and where the money's going and who's got what accounts and what's going where. And yeah, it's a really good point that he brings up, is that, just everyone being involved and knowing what's going on is really important, or you can end up where
so important.
the band breaks up and this guy's either A, in a bunch of debt, or B, he's still getting money that everyone should be sharing and it's not going around, or there's a lot of different possibilities.
Yeah, I'm really glad Kareem brought up that point, because it really sounded from the beginning that, oh, this one person can be collecting all this money for the merch, but ultimately it's the other side of it too, right?
Exactly.
That one person is also legally on the hook for those bills.
Right.
It doesn't matter if that merch sold or not. You still have to worry about that it was made.
And that's why it's important to incorporate yourself, make an LLC, get all that stuff squared away so everyone knows what's going on,
Yep.
Yeah,
And
the question who owns the van should be answered in the legal documents for the band's incorporation.
yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As a person who is the business guy in his band, I handle all of that stuff for Allegiant. If you are listening to this and are in a band, being like, wow, this is all such useful information. I wonder how I'm going to handle this when I cross that bridge. Take the initiative to make sure that your band is well informed on everything that's going on. I forward emails and screen cap text messages that are all business related to all my dudes, whether they ask for it or not.
That's great.
Because that's just how you have to do it. Everybody needs to be on the same page, because that way you avoid unnecessary conflict between yourself and your band members. You avoid anybody feeling shafted. You avoid any miscommunications in business, which I feel is the most important part. You have your designated business person and they pass everything to everyone and everything gets funneled through them in both directions. And then that way there's no one, you're not in the middle of an email thread with someone and then someone else just kind of interjects and is like, oh, I totally derailed this situation. Sorry. Which happens here and there, but it's important to be well organized in that regard. So bands that are listening, be organized. That is my number one piece of advice in communicating with your band members and handling the business end of your business, because that's really what it is.
Yeah, the number of crises that can be averted simply through clarity of communication.
Yeah.
Is significant. So, that's important. And I guess this is as good a time as any to segue into our special guest for the week, right, Ryan? What do you think?
Sure, let's do it.
So we have the absolute pleasure to talk to one of my favorite fucking maniacs on earth. Someone with an unparalleled artistic vision to the point where, we put together that Amazon Alexa play Cattle Decapitation. That was all him as we were here in my little home studio riffing on trying to make exciting videos to promote the record. We're going to talk to Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation.
Awesome.
And Riley, I know you got a little bit of a history with Travis. We haven't done this interview yet, so I'm personally excited to see what kind of wild tangents we dive into here.
It's going to be a fun one for sure.
We are joined by Travis Ryan from Cattle Decapitation. Man, what's new these days?
What isn't new? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every day you wake up to some new bullshit. I'm sick of it.
One of the things that's interesting about this is bands often do interviews really just on top of the release of a new record. And we've had some time since the release of Death Atlas, and it's becoming more and more relevant every day. So what have you done any reflecting on Death Atlas as a whole?
I did most of the reflecting as it was being made, which doesn't make any sense. I get it. The reason why I say that is because I came up with the concept 3 years ago or some shit. Like I had the title and the cover and everything years ago at this point. So it's been weird. That it's weird to put out a record and then the second everybody's, in the United States, Europe especially, has digested it, heard it, digested it fully, that's when everything goes to shit, and now all of a sudden we're not allowed to go perform it. That's new to us, so it's kind of a bummer. It definitely could be worse. The record could have come out right now, or something. I really feel for my homies in Igor and Black Dahlia Murder and stuff like that who have had records put out and at this point and we're unable to do anything with them. It's fucking unprecedented. It's crazy. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, when you talk about stuff that's has relevance with current events, or because that's, I've always dealt with stuff like that. It's going to happen. I think, this kind of coincidences and stuff. It's going to happen.
My thoughts on predicting disaster for humanity and modern civilization were, look, you could walk into a bar and say, hey, I'll bet you $50 I can throw this dart and hit anywhere on the wall that has the dartboard. It's just that easy to predict. But I do want to mention, of course, Cattle did the Bring Back the Plague video from home.
Mm-hmm.
And so far that's amassed nearly 500,000 views, which is fantastic. It's the top video on the Metal Blade YouTube channel for the last 28 days, which is really hard to do for new videos. Travis, I don't know how much you dive into YouTube and how YouTube stats roll, especially over time on big channels. But really big videos on YouTube stay big essentially forever. Our number one video most of the time is Powerwolf, We Drink Your Blood. And it's never going to change.
Why? I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it.
It's got tens of millions of views. It's always going to be there, followed by Cannibal Corpse, Amon Amarth, Whitechapel, whatever.
Huh.
But the point is, the bigger a video gets on YouTube, the bigger it gets. It snowballs. So for a new music video to crack that top 10 on our channel really shows that it's reacting with people. So I guess if you wouldn't mind, give us a little rundown of that video and the processes for trying to slap it together. Because I know it was pretty last minute. You wanted it out April 1st, and it was stressful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was stress-free. The stressful part was having to edit, give my buddy editing, not tips, but just suggestions or having changes made after the fact. It was everybody, I told everybody, it can be, as it, I want to hammer home the idea that we are at home, just, we're in the same boat as everybody else. We got this, everybody's doing it on their cell phones. So it was supposed to be budget. You know what I mean? If you ask me, our phones technology has come along so much that it almost looks like a real video.
Right.
It wasn't supposed to, like Josh's footage, or he's got a slightly older phone, I believe. Bell's footage, Ollie's footage. That's more what I wanted. It's darker, it's grainy, it's shitty. But I opened up the window, or the curtain. Usually we keep it, pretty dark in our living room, but I opened the curtain and all this natural light came in, and these phones just do really, really well now with natural light and shit. So I opened it up, but now I'm all bleached white. I look ridiculous, but the whole point was to, it's supposed to look shitty. We don't care. We spent nothing on it really, which reminds me, I got to talk to you guys about about what our next move is. Anyways, no, it was just we were like, let's make some lemonade out of these lemons, because we were supposed to do another video for a totally different song. Normally we wouldn't do a video for a song we released pretty much out the gate. What I think it was like our second song we released. Normally we wouldn't backtrack like that, but it was just so relevant to the times, and it was the least, literally the least we could do. So from the time we came up with the idea to when we handed it to post, it was 5-6 days tops or something. Most of that was editing. Everybody filmed. Dave's up in Seattle. He's 2,000 miles or whatever the hell it is away from his drum kit, which is down here with us. So he had to air drum, and it was just it was kind of it's gonna be a good. I saw somebody say something like, when I get older or whatever, and my kids say, "Hey, what was 2020 like?" I'm just gonna show them this video because it's got everything. And so that was kind of the point, was to make it something that I guess everybody can relate to, because it's just so bonkers, this how things were rolling out, being told to stay indoors and this and that. Like we've never gone through anything like this in our lifetime, so it's just kind of interesting. I don't know, I think that's the main reason why it's quote viral or whatever, semi-viral. It still doesn't have some shit. Did you see that stupid, what was it, deathcore COVID-19? They got like millions of views on that shit. You know what I mean?
I haven't.
Well, there's some deathcore COVID-19 song or something that I saw after we put out our video. I saw it and I was just like, how does that work? These guys got like millions of views. I don't understand what makes something pop the way it does. So, all of our shit's organic. You tell me, man. You guys are the ones that know how to do this shit.
I mean, deathcore is such a fucking vacuum. You know what I mean? Like,
I can't believe the shit's still around. I thought we were almost past it, and then Die Artist Murder came along. We were right there. We were right on the cusp.
Well, I think it's like any other subgenre where over time it kind of mutates and becomes something else. So it's one of those things where in a few years the bands that are considered deathcore are unrecognizable from the origins. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But
some of the later stuff, I've actually found myself going, you know what? I don't hate this. Like the newer Whitechapel. That song they put out the other day was sick.
Like Carnifex rips. I love those dudes. It's one of those things. It depends. It's hard to pigeonhole because musicians grow and change over time anyway.
Yeah, I think people are making melody has become a thing, and doom has become a big thing. So I've noticed bands, the deathcore bands, or at least the second wave, or whatever the fuck, doing things that sound a little cooler. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of dumb shit going viral, have you been following the Trapped situation?
I wasn't. I'm not the biggest fan of jumping on bandwagon, or bandwagon jumping, or jumping on things because of checking something out because everybody else has. To be honest, I heard, this is a weird fact, I listened to Death, Spiritual Healing, before I ever sat down and listened to Slayer. We're talking 1990 or 91 or whatever. Everybody had, I think the only reason why I can remember is I just remember, like, I don't know, man. I think if anything, I've always gone out of my way to look for something different, I guess. I don't know.
You're speaking to my soul, man.
If everybody else was super on top of it, then let them do that. I'm going to look over here in this other little crevice or something. I don't know. I also have weird ways of, back then I just wanted to hear the next heaviest fucking thing, I watch movies for the technical aspect, not the plot. I sit there and I watch. That's why these A24 movies are actually kind of great, because it's nothing but eye candy, zero plot. The plot's a fucking joke. I'm sorry, Midsommar.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's a breakup flick. Who gives a shit?
But it's so good from that technical
Beautiful
aspect.
To watch. It was fun to watch, and really, that made it interesting. The acting, all that stuff. I watch all this shit for how did they get this shot, or technical reasons, not so much plot. So
Parasite was another really good one that did that. Like the plot was kind of whatever. It like had a couple twists and turns, but it wasn't anything particularly special. But the fucking shots and the camera work in that movie are so good. So that whole scene where like their little like basement apartment is flooding, like just the logistics behind how to get that shot where she's like sitting on the toilet that's like rupturing from underneath her, and like it's so good. It's so good.
Can you imagine the thing that really grabs me, having done a couple videos on a pretty DIY level, the confidence enough to commit the funds to make something like that happen, the confidence that that's a good idea and it's going to be good is, I think, something to be respected with any sort of creativity, especially filmmaking.
Absolutely.
Like the insurance, the people you have to pay to safely pull off stunts like that, and then to have camera operators with the technical ability to be able to capture those shots, it's definitely something to be appreciated. I remember when I went to the theater and saw Midsommar, I loved it. And I didn't really think about it. I thought it was just a really gripping and intense, and yeah, you're right, the shots are incredible. It's fun to be able to actually have a lot of time to take those in right now. We have all day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love cinematography. That's one of my main reasons or not reasons, but one of the things I look for the most, to look at or pay attention to the most in movies, and a lot of that A24 stuff is like that. But just the plot, I don't know. They're art films to me. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I go into them like, I'm sorry, Hereditary, man. I went into it going, oh man, it's going to be about this creepy little girl. Let's see. This is about this looks weird. 15 minutes in, she fucking gets decapitated. I'm like, this is false advertising. What is this?
What the fuck is this?
It's like, it's about some chick. It's about some lady and her what do you call it? Like, what was it? Her mom died.
It was like her. It was like a weird cult demon thing. It was like this. Yeah, it's like her mom or her mom's friend. That's what it was. Her mom's friend runs this like cult.
It looked
It's
like
so
something
weird.
with Mama to me. Like it was just the same shit over again. So
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed. And then The Lighthouse, beautifully acted, beautifully shot.
I haven't seen it. I really want to.
At the end, me and my wife look at each other and go, "The fuck? What was that?" Like if I'm gonna watch that, I'm gonna watch Matthew Barney Cremaster Cycles or some sort of actual art film. You know, not. I don't know. That maybe I'm weird, but everybody masturbates over those movies so much. I'm just like, actually, how about this? Explain it to me. Explain what you just saw. Can you? I don't know.
I feel like that's why dudes like Quentin Tarantino get such high praise, because it's like he can put together a good story, but also include all those insane technical elements. Like that fucking tracking shot in the first Kill Bill in the jazz club.
Actually,
Dude. So watch the first Kill Bill. There's this scene. It's what's called a tracking shot, if you're familiar with the terminology, but it's basically it's like all one huge shot, and the way that they pull, it's like the dude's like going up and down stairs and going over walls and like all kinds of crazy shit. And if you look into the way that it was done, it's insane. It's like this dude had a steady cam on, and they had to like hook him up onto a crane and then like put him down and have him walk somewhere and follow Uma Thurman and then have him come back and put it back on a crane. And it's like the craziest shit. And I feel like that margin of being able to be like a phenomenal story writer, but also have these just fucking bananas technical ideas and pull them off is so rare and so hard to find in filmmakers these days.
I just want to add, Travis, you can let me know if you think I'm nuts, but I watch an insane amount of Mystery Science Theater and riff tracks because I love the writing, and I love watching these old movies that some of them might actually be cool ideas, but they're pulled off so poorly. And I rewatched for the first time in years because Heather had never seen it. Heather at Middle Blade, and it blew my mind she hadn't. Demolition Man with Stallone and Wesley Snipes, Rob Schneider. It's awesome. It's one of the better 90s action movies I've ever seen. There's a shot at the beginning of Stallone in a hallway in the dystopia of future Los Angeles that goes from a Dutch angle to, I think that's the correct term, to a standing Steadicam shot following Stallone down this hallway. And I think what really grabbed me about it is I had just watched all this really poorly filmed Mystery Science Theater stuff. So it jumped out at me as, oh, this is what a wacky idea looks like if it's done by competent people.
Yeah.
It's been fun to kind of sit back and enjoy a few of those things. I guess I've had more time to watch movies. I'm still working from home like a maniac, but you kind of have the freedom to just veg out. I don't know what. I guess the question I have for Riley and Travis both, for your bands, what is there anything about the band that's keeping you busy right now?
Just creative solutions. I mean, just trying to come up with creative solutions to problems that we never could have fucking seen coming ever.
Without having to make some stupid merch item that's gonna like, I don't know. I see a lot of bands coming out like masks and shit like that.
Yeah.
To like what Revocation did was sick.
Right.
You know, with their campaign that they did. And that's cool. You know, we just got done doing a fundraiser as well, but at this point it's like, shit, now we're fucked.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure Riley's kind of in the same boat. You know, we have our quote unquote day jobs or whatever, but we've kind of painted ourselves into a corner with this cyclical way of doing touring and conducting our bands and and albums and stuff like that. Him and I are pretty much kind of in the same boat. Whereas his album came out a year ago, ours came out 6 or whatever months ago, and you know we should be out. We were going to be touring at the same time. We should be out there.
Yeah. I should have been on the road right now, like literally.
Did you guys order merch? Did you get fucked?
Yeah, we did order merch like a bunch of fucking stupid idiots. And now we're trying to push it, you know what I mean? Like trying to push that merch online, like
yeah, it sucks.
Doing whatever we can to make up the pre-tour debts that you know kind of accumulate before going on the road and making them up. But yeah, we did the thing. Like I said, we should be on tour right now. Our tour was supposed to start, I want to say, on like the 9th and go through like the 29th or the 30th. And you know, here I am filming a fucking podcast from the comfort of my bedroom. So yeah, it's like I said, just coming up with creative solutions to deal with these problems that never could have been foreseen. It's like, if you would have come to me last year and been like, hey, this album you just released is super sick. Just want to let you know that a year from now, you're not going to be able to tour it because the entire world is going to be shut down. I'd be like, yeah, whatever, crackhead. Here's $1. Like, you know, it's fucking crazy. So, you know, but that's the thing about fucking musicians and artists and all that shit, is that we are all naturally pretty creative people, and it's kind of fun in this like weird fucked up kind of way. It's like I'm being presented with this new challenge in my industry that, like, yeah, it's fucking really unfortunate and definitely financially a nightmare. But at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, I get to try all this shit that I probably would have never been able to try under normal circumstances. And if it doesn't work, like, who cares? You know what I mean? If it doesn't work, it's not like anything else is right now. So I get to kind of play around with ideas and try shit from a marketing perspective and from a creative perspective that I've never really gotten to try before. So, you know, trying to put a little bit of a silver lining on the shit cloud.
Yeah, that's what the point of our video was, kind of, you know. Well, that, and it was just like, I don't know, some of our stuff that I guess works or pops off, and this goes back to the beginning of the band. Human Jerky and Homivore were written like within minutes, or I think we wrote, you know, each record was written within a few days or a week or something like that. You know, this spontaneous way of coming up with ideas, putting them to tape kind of thing, which is kind of what we did, but we used the digital realm, obviously. It was just, I think that kind of spontaneity really works sometimes. I mean, it got us out of this pinch, you know what I mean? We didn't really have all these tours, everything this year being canceled, and didn't really have anything else, and it was just like, what if we do this, you know? And it was a cheeky, stupid video or whatever, but that, you know, it also mirrors what we have been put in, this bullshit, crazy situation we've been put in, which apparently I asked for. So
yeah, right,
right.
Yeah, you're responsible for this, man.
Yeah,
look, bring back the plague. What a dick.
Sure. I'll tell you one thing though, dude. I'm sure this goes for everybody else, you guys. I'm getting so much shit done that has needed to be done.
Yeah.
Using this time to clean up my life, you know, to organize things and take care of stuff around the house, all sorts of shit that has just gone neglected from being gone all the time. You know, like came back from Japan, and, you know, no offense to anybody, but I do remember thinking to myself, how the fuck? I was also super jet lagged, and I had fallen on my ass the first night in Tokyo. So I had severe like psoriatic arthritis in my tailbone, which I was going through this crazy flare up that lasted like fucking 2 weeks. Anyways, I was not in the mood to go back out on the road. And I was just like thinking to myself, I can't believe that in 10 days, I have to go back out there. I'm in massive pain. My head was swimming I didn't know what time I was supposed to be in, you know, there's something about going to Australia, Japan, that hemisphere, or that area, that's so much worse jet lag wise.
It really
I don't know what the fuck it is, man. It is brute. The last thing I could fathom doing was getting back out on the road, and I was just like, man, this is fucking intense. It's going to be an intense year. And then boom, like that. You know, I'm sitting here looking at my dog going, man, I wish I could just have a couple more weeks with my dog and cat. And now I'm like, are we going to be on tour in a year from now?
Well, Travis, you know what it's like to go to shows in LA, and we go to a lot of shows. And look, for us, is it a perk of the job? For sure. When you work all day in an office like Ryan and I do, and then you have a show and you find out the band goes on at 10 o'clock, every once in a while, that's fine. If that becomes the standard thing, it can burn you the hell out. And I remember the Cult of Luna, the Cult of Luna tour, Intronaut, I didn't go. I was just exhausted. I had other stuff going on. And that was right before this all hit. And now I'm thinking, you know what? I probably should have gone to that.
That was the last show I ever went to.
Yeah. I fucking love Intronaut. Sasha's one of my favorite dudes. They're all great. I was just in a bad place mentally. So you're right. One of the things that this has really afforded is us to all kind of collectively catch our breath and really put things in perspective, evaluate. I've been able to sit here at home and work on music videos and really work on it without somebody coming up to my desk and poking me, and just taking me out of my flow of whatever complicated thing I was trying to work on in After Effects. Yeah. So it's really, I live with Heather here in the Valley, and there's things we're working on for the house that she had been putting off for a long time because she's a badass and bought a home like some sort of financial wizard. Who buys a house in fucking Los Angeles?
Yeah. It's a sick house.
Yeah, it's a nice little spot. But it's about to get real hot, so it's going to be real warm in here in the Valley in not too long. And I'm honestly kind of worried about what's going to happen when it heats up to 110, and I'm in here with a computer tower. So we will see.
I've been calling it the Great Reset.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I really do think, like, okay, we've been put in this situation. No, none of us have a handle on it. Neither you or I or anybody else out there.
Hell no.
Can make it go away. So be that as it may, that means like take this time to really use it and abuse it. Like use this time instead of sitting around bitching about something. Do something. I don't know. I've been using it to take care of home business stuff and I got to get the yard cleaned up and finally tackle the all the boxes and shit in my garage, whatever it is. But I think the music industry even there's a part of me that feels like we needed this. Now please remember, I said there's a part of me that feels like we needed this. I don't need the headline to be like, dude that wrote this fucked up song says we deserve it or some shit. No, part of me does think like we've taken shit for granted. We've taken the music scene for granted. There was so much stuff going on and now there's nothing. It's all been taken away from everybody. And I think this should be a learning event or something, and this should be an event that I feel people should realize we kind of needed. The environment needed it. I mean, that's been obvious. Besides the deaths, obviously, or besides people getting sick. My parents, they're older and they're not in the best health, and I worry about them. I worry about my wife. She works at a grocery store, and I worry about them. I worry about getting sick myself, or guys in the band, my friends, family, obviously. But I just think something had to happen. Something had to put people in check, and it's of course everything gets turned. Everyone figured out a way to politicize this, of fucking course, and of course all these ridiculous conspiracy theories and all this stuff. I don't know. I hate to say it. I hate to admit it to people, but I personally am kind of digging this time off. I wish it wasn't under these circumstances of, people getting sick and the potentiality of someone my uncle got it. My uncle, my step uncle is, he already got COVID-19 and but he's out of the woods now. I saw him the other day. I heard from him the other day, and he said, "Dude, you don't want this. Like,
yeah,
it's different. It's not just the flu." At first, I thought, I was like one of those guys that's just like, well, I mean, look at the statistics and blah 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 and this and that. I'm sure we're fine, but really. And then I learned a little more about it, and realized the gravity of the situation, and it's anything that has to do with pneumonia you don't fucking want, man. That can kill anybody. It can kill fucking anybody. So this whole like, they're closing the economy just for a few old people and a couple infants. It's like, no, dude. That's
not how it works.
It's unprecedented. Look up what novel virus means. This is unprecedented. Nobody really knows how to go navigate through this, and everyone's doing the best they can.
Yeah. And look, taking that positive spin and saying we needed this is really it's. I get what you're saying, but that might not be the correct phrase. It's more of what we're ultimately doing is make the best of a situation in which none of us has effectively any control whatsoever. So what else can we do outside of just control what we control and just make the best out of it? Exactly. You can watch the news and wallow in despair and get really angry on Twitter. And, Satan knows I do my share of getting angry on Twitter. But what's the point ultimately? Why add to the cacophony when you can use this time? And number one, there shouldn't be a lot of pressure to create. Should artists be thinking about ways to create and connect with fans during this time when they can't play shows? Absolutely. But on the other side of things, I don't think it's really fair to pressure people and they're like, you have to be creative right now. Because there's days where I've just woken up and looked at the Black Dahlia murder video I was working on and just thought, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do with this. I have no ideas whatsoever. I just need to walk away for a few hours or readdress tomorrow morning. And that's just, with any creative process, I think that's important, but especially now. Because shit is just vaguely weird. And there's nothing wrong with kind of just relenting to the fact that, I'm just going to take a day. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Yeah. I don't know. It's fucking wild, man. I feel like I have all these weird physical manifestations of being stressed, but I feel actually pretty good. I'm cooking three meals for myself every day. What's that?
You're like me. You're like me. We stay at home. We work out of the house. So I think we're kind of already. You and I are kind of already used to this semi-isolation or whatever. One thing I'm not used to is not being able to go to the burrito shop and get a burrito and sit there and eat it. I have to go get it, bring it home. I have to stand 6 feet away and oh God, dude. I don't know. Does anybody else, when you're out there out and about going to like grocery stores or going to get something to eat or something, I feel kind of like itchy. I'm really
I have that psychosomatic shit for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know it's not a skin disease, but I feel like I almost I start feeling like almost like kind of itchy or whatever. I don't know. It's weird. Shit. I don't know.
I was going to ask you, Travis, and for the listeners who are unaware, Travis and I both live in the San Diego area and have been known on occasion to get some burritos together. Have any of your favorite spots closed down?
Dude, fucking Taqueria Veggie, man. The greatest taco. Well, they're called vegan tacos now. Real clever name.
Yeah, right.
We got back from Japan. The only thing Ross and I wanted was tacos. I think he might have just gone straight there from the airport, or I don't remember. But we went and they weren't there. They kept bailing out, and then it turned out for like 2 weeks. It was like they were there one day, and then for like 2 weeks after that, they were gone. So I thought they were done. Turns out they were they were fixing their taco truck or whatever. Their truck broke down or something like that, so they were just fixing it. And then the stay-at-home thing started happening, and we haven't had those tacos in forever. They, of course, I think you give them that truck and a reason to not be there, and they will take it because there's been so many times. I thought they were done, man. All these people posting going, are they done? Like, I haven't seen them around. That is the best fucking vegan tacos in existence.
They're so good. They're so good.
They have a location in Tijuana, but that's actually closer to me. Going to another country and going to that location is actually closer to me than going to the one in San Diego. But
that's so crazy. Yeah, my favorite place in Escondido closed its doors like completely. Like they're not, because it's it's a walk-in place. It's a Gilberto's off of Valley Parkway, and they just completely closed their doors. They're not doing the walk-in thing. They don't have a drive-through because they're in like a strip mall kind of setup.
Yeah.
And I am fucking bummed about it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
part of me is grateful that I'm not just like gaining a ton of quarantine weight, just eating burritos for every meal. But the other part of me is like, fuck that. I want to eat a burrito right now so bad.
Yeah.
So,
Hey, Travis, how much do you cook as someone that eats, you've got your preferences. You're not going to the usual spots.
Dude, especially where I live, it's not the most veggie friendly, but I've been able to figure it. I mean, dude.
Well, I mean, do you enjoy cooking at all? Because that's one of the
No.
things on this break that I've enjoyed doing.
No, I hate it.
Oh, that
I have a
sucks.
small kitchen too, to be honest. I hate where we live. That's another thing, dude. We need to figure out a way to get out of here. You know, we're gonna try to move too during all this stuff, but my wife, I eat out a lot, to be honest, and my wife cooks a lot. But no, dude, that's not one of my things. I've been hammering, listing stuff for sale online and trying to do our taxes. Dude, that was one cool thing about this. Was another thing. When I got home from Japan, I had to start immediately doing our taxes. And then this happened, and the tax deadline got pushed to next month or June or whatever. So I was just like sick.
Oh, that's great.
I did not want to do taxes. In fact, I finally just said, you know what? Fuck it. We're taking an extension because I do not want to deal with this right now.
this year was going to be I was like, I'm going to do my taxes early. I'm not going to do them like the day before. I'm going to try to, exhibit the behavior of like a responsible 30-something-year-old man.
Yeah.
And then all this shit happened, and I was like, man, fuck that. Like, I'm just going to see what happens. Like, if I, who knows what might happen? Like, the IRS might, in the fantasy world that I try to live in sometimes, the IRS might just waive shit until next year. You know what I mean? Like, fucking, who knows?
Hey, if
like,
they can,
it's a total...
If they can print trillions to bail out all these companies, they can waive income tax.
Right?
Yeah. So,
have you guys been stimulated yet?
Yeah, I did not get mine. Not yet. And of course, when I check the site, I'm getting the universal fuck off notification
That's
of
what I
like
got.
eligibility in question, and I'm like, my eligibility is not in question. I know what my income is, and give me that fucking $1,200, bro. So,
Did you sign up for the Music Cares thing?
no, I didn't sign up for the Music Cares thing. I should. It might be a little ship might have sailed on that one, but I should still look into it because
We got ours really quick. Like we got approved. I had Faley hook it up. I had him help me out with, give it. They have a list of stuff you need to get, and one of them was just like, basically, I went to Faley and was just like, hey man, can you give us almost like an employer letter of what do you call it?
Proof of employment.
yeah,
Something.
No,
like a reference letter almost.
yeah. It's like a character,
Sure.
explaining, this guy's been with us since whenever and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I've also heard of shit like even like road crew, sound guys, and merch guy. Someone even said something crazy like a merch guy or something got it. I was like, what? Because I guess the Grammys gave the RMA or whatever the hell it is like $20 million or some shit. So
Oh, wow.
all you got to do is sign up.
Yeah, we've been tossing around some charity ideas internally at Metal Blade, and Music Cares was one of the main ones we're discussing, because we haven't done a lot publicly yet, charity-wise, or discussing what we're going to do, because we just don't know yet. And it's really, I think a lot of companies want to react quickly rather than properly, and I think you can do some dumb things that way. How often do you go on YouTube now and just see a commercial from a car company? In these times, we still exist. What's the point? What's the point of spending 5 to 6 figures to produce a commercial and then doing a 5-figure media buy, a five-figure media buy or more to put this commercial everywhere when you could have just given that money to fucking charity?
Totally.
What the fuck are you doing? Why do we need multi-million-dollar Geico commercial expenses when people can't afford to eat? It's weird. I don't know. So Metal Blade, we're kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do yet. We'll do something at some point, but it's got to be the right thing. You know, I talked about, if we're going to do a charity, it's got to be transparent and people got to know from the beginning what the charity is and why, rather than, hey, we're giving money to people. Trust us.
People don't understand how hard it is to donate to a charity while using their name.
Yes.
There's a lot of red tape usually.
You need
that
approval.
People don't
Yeah.
realize. Like the hoops we had to jump through to be able to. Luckily, this was actually an easy one for the Cobargo Wildlife Sanctuary that we were able to do a fundraiser for that got totally destroyed in the Australian fires. They were in such bad shape that when we hit them up, going, "Hey, we're a death metal band. Not going to even bother telling you our name. We don't want to scare anybody away, and we'd like to try to raise some money. We think we can get you some." We think we could do pretty well. We just need to be able to use your name because, I don't know how laws work over there regarding that stuff or international law, how that works with this. But here in the States, there's a lot of red tape to jump through. So people are just like, why don't you donate? Blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, you go try to set something up and see how easy it is. It's not very easy. So I would love to do way more charity stuff, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. The ones we have done, I did one for Tijuana, for a dog rescue in Tijuana years back, and then this one in Australia. Because good luck trying to do something with, I don't know, a Humane Society or somebody like that. Like,
Oh yeah.
there's just so much to be able to legally use their name. There's just a lot of legalities.
Yeah. We had a charity, an animal shelter years ago. There was a digital release from Metal Blade where the proceeds were going to 100% go to an animal charity specific to a city, and they turned us down. An animal shelter because it was heavy metal related. They didn't care who the band was because it was heavy metal. They just said no, but thank you, but no thanks. So yeah, you're totally right. You can't just say, yeah, it involves research on our ends and what makes sense to do. What can we give to people to contribute to this charity? What kind of product or download or what? It's not a simple thing to do it in a way that not only makes sense for fans, but makes sense in a way that'll move the needle enough to make sense.
It's a good way to get sued too.
Yeah.
You may have all the great intentions in the world, but unless you worked it out with those people and then have a paper trail, God, I made sure, just in case anybody wanted to get lame about it, I made sure there was just like the most ridiculous, obvious, trackable trail to every cent regarding this Cobargo thing. It was something I made sure I went out of my way to do because I know how easy it is to just for things to just go haywire sometimes.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's a misdemeanor in Rhode Island to do a contest with prizing worth more than $500 without filing it properly with the Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce or something.
See, yeah.
So just do it when fans are like, oh, why is this contest US only? That's why. If we wanted to do a global contest, we'd have to hire an attorney in every nation on earth to draft up legal text to make that contest legal over time. And if the laws change, then we have to do it again. So it just doesn't make any sense. It's fucking wild, man.
And with this, I mean, I kind of liked what it seemed like. Nuclear Blast was pretty on top of it. They had the Twitch. Vince, I don't know shit about Twitch, but
yeah, they had
both
stream.
you guys, you and Riley, and we've talked about this before. Like they were able to, I don't know how much that generates for the bands or whatever, but do some sort of like streaming thing with them, and they seem to be pretty on it. It's utilizing current tech that a lot of fucking people are doing and making money off of, even and all, as well as and it's interesting. People are engaging on that platform or whatever. So I thought that was pretty.
Sorry, I'm going to go ahead and say you would do amazing on Twitch, Travis.
Yeah, but what is my? Because I've also thought about doing a podcast. What is my angle? I've noticed Trevor's doing what, like
retro games and shit. Yeah, so
doing the whole retro thing. So cool.
So we were just talking about this earlier on the podcast. The thing is that like you don't need an angle. Your angle is being Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation. Like people will tune in just to like see you and hang out and ask. Like you could be fucking like sitting around painting your fucking nails, and people would come in and be like, "Oh my god, it's Travis, here's $5." Like fucking like it's wild. And like obviously that only lasts so long, and you do eventually need to start seeing like doing consistent shit and like having incentives and stuff, but at least just to launch, like you can really be doing anything. And it's the kind of thing where it's like you start doing one thing, even if it's just like talking QA kind of stuff, like going over like your record collection, like old record kind of stuff, like you could have that be your angle. And then from there, it just expands into like other shit. And like, because people will come in and be like, hey, you should do this. And then you'll be like, oh, hey, that's not such a bad idea. And then put your own spin on it. And it just fucking snowballs into this huge cult of personality type of thing. So, you know, that can be a talk we can have later.
One of the things we did want to ask you, Travis, because in Bring Back the Plague, you were playing video games. What are you playing right now?
I was playing Modern Warfare.
Excellent.
I am not a gamer. In fact, when PS2 came out and PS3, I bought them so I could have a DVD player and then and watch my sit and do acid or do whatever and sit and watch my friends play. And then I got a PS3 so I could have a Blu-ray player and I'd sit back and watch my friends play it. You know, I had roommates and shit like that. So when I saw Modern Warfare 2, I was, I almost joined the Faceless for a second. I went and I tried out for them. This is years ago. This is right before Planetary Duality came out. I went.
That was your Blabbermouth headline right there, by the way.
Oh no,
right.
That was
Shit.
it.
I was. They needed it was for Planetary Duality. I wanted to do the record, but they needed somebody to go on tour like right then, and I just got back from tour. I wasn't into it. I wasn't into going out on tour and stuff, and I went up and hung out with the dudes and we practiced and went through it and everything. But anyways, I'm getting off subject here. They were playing Modern Warfare 2, I believe it was, or maybe it was just 1. But either way, yep. I was just like, what the fuck is this? And they explained to me what it was, and I'm like, and you're playing people online? Those are other players somewhere else? And they're like, yeah, you never seen this dude? And it's like, no, I didn't know you could do that. I didn't know you could go online and kill people in another state, or whatever. That's fucking sick. So I immediately jumped on it, and I've been a fan of that series since, what was it, 2009 or 10 or 2010, I think. And that's all I play, dude, I'm not a gamer. I'm not into learning learning how to play these games. I'm not into fucking I can't believe people actually put time and effort and thought into the fact that this video game has some sort of plot or a narrative or something. That's cool. Whatever. It's not my thing. I just like to run around and run and gun and mindlessly shoot and get shot. I don't know. It's just fun. It's mindless fun to me, and it scratches that itch and it hits those receptors, those spots in the brain, the pleasure centers, but I can't really get into much else. I got that Days Gone because my voice is in it. And the Red Dead Redemption shit was cool too, but I started playing it and then the stupid beta part wouldn't work. So I started playing World War II instead. I just got hooked on that. And now I'm hooked on Modern Warfare. And that's kind of I'm a big time, noob. I suck. I'm not very good at it. That's one reason why the whole Twitch thing, when it was, I always thought it was just you go on and play video games and people watch you, I guess. I don't know why somebody would want to do that, but
I think people would love to watch you play Modern Warfare, even if you suck at it.
Well, that's
especially if you suck at it.
I do suck at it. I run right in the middle. Everyone's just like, dude, why are you running right in the middle of the street? There's people everywhere. I'm like, I didn't know that I'm really supposed to be acting like I'm in fucking, like my life is on the line.
Tactics. You mentioned podcasts too. I think people would love to hear your thoughts on a regular basis in a podcast format.
That would just get me in trouble, man.
Yeah, but that would make it even better.
Just people don't. You know what? It'd be better in a podcast because I'll make some stupid quip from the hip online, I'm lightly joking, and people will be like, "What? You shit talking bastard! Wow, how could you say that?" But it's just like, dude, it was just a dumb little quip. If you were sitting right here, listening to me, and we were talking, and you read my body language, whatever, no matter what it's about, you'd realize I'm not. It's got this. We wouldn't be having that conversation. It wouldn't be that big of that kind of a thing. And people, dude, I see people that I'll never know in my life. I will never meet them. They will never mean anything. And they somehow know about every little nook and cranny of my personality because of some dumb post I made on Metal Injection. Just a dumb little joke, a little harmless blub. Who cares? But these motherfuckers seem to have me pegged. You know what I mean? So, which is ridiculous. So in that respect, a podcast would be sick. I've always just wondered, what would it be? I mean, I'm not going to sit around and just talk shit on deathcore bands. Like, what's it going to be? It's got to be something that's, I don't know, some sort of angle or something. And
I think a lot of people overthink it before they start instead of just going for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's probably what I'm doing here. Plus, dude, the time, like, I'm so busy doing, just everything else. That's why I needed this pandemic thing forcing me to stay home and take care of shit is a fucking godsend. I hate to say it. Like, that's pretty fucked up, especially considering the song I wrote or the lyrics I wrote and all that, but it was, and I don't want my friends or family or whatever contracting this thing, but it was this kind of force, being told to stay home. I fucking needed it personally. I don't know. I don't have that kind of self-control, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, nothing we can do but make the best of the time we've been given. Time is the most valuable resource any single individual has, and that's why live shows rule, because you get to spend time seeing a band do what they do. That's why streaming rules, because you get to interact with your favorite bands. That's why podcasts rule. It's any fan that takes the time to listen to an album or watch a video, that has value. So yeah, that's what makes my job fun. Is I have the privilege of helping artists create things that fans spend time on at its core. It's fucking cool, man.
The one thing that does worry me though is this going to create some insanely drastic shift here? Everybody was so used to a certain style of life, a certain way of living or doing things, whether it's how they listen to music or how they take in entertainment. Let's face it, we're all part of the entertainment industry here. So what I'm worried about is everything switching solely over to digital. Now nobody wants to go see a show. We just want to sit home and watch people stream it in the same way that nobody gives a fuck about playing video games anymore. There's kids that are cool with sitting there watching someone else play video games. Like,
I don't know. I think
kind of worries me that
I think people are going to be amped to get back to shows because there really is no substitute for the real thing.
It's not going to happen all at once. Every motherfucker in the band that has an album, we're all going to be competing for that real estate on stage. We're all going to be competing for at the same time. That's another thing that's like, ugh, like shows are going to be affected just because of that, just because it's going to be all too much at once. And
the first 6 months after this shit clears, you know what I mean, is going to be a real fucking intense time to be alive as a.
You're going to have a lot of people that don't want to go because they're afraid. Is the coast even clear yet? Like, if you ask me, man, I've been saying the entire fucking time, I don't see why anything would, quote, go back to normal without a fucking vaccine in place.
Yeah, no way.
How? Why would it? Like,
I mean,
right.
California's working on a thing right now where they can test you to see if you've had it, and that's what they're focusing on right now, is being like, because if you've had it, you've developed the antibodies, and you can like go back to work or like go back to normal life or whatever because you're not at risk of infecting or being infected anymore. And I think that's a rational first step as far as getting everything back on track. But yeah, until there's like an actual vaccine that can be widely distributed, that's not going to have people have fucking, foot-long Q-tips shoved into their nose.
Footlong Q-tip is the name of my new ska band now. I will say, brother. I hope right now some booking agents and bands are coming up with some of the most ridiculous and incredible tour packages of all time for when this is over too.
Oh man,
everybody's available now.
Of all people, about the one that we okayed. We're not going to talk about it openly, obviously, but
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
one of the gnarliest lineups since, I don't know, Campaign for Physical Destruction. Fuck.
Yeah, well, hopefully stuff like that. That's all back on the table at some point.
Yeah, I heard they're just probably pushing it a year or something. Or they're gonna figure it out, but.
Well, hell, man, and the thing about podcasts, and the thing that I think Ryan and I, because we had done a few different iterations of this in the past, and we've brought Riley back on to try it again, is how quickly time flies. We've been talking for like 55 minutes, and it doesn't feel like that.
I love it. I love it. This is the style that I like. I don't like having to sit there and answer the same questions I've done 300 times since 1999. I like. I feel like I'm a personable dude. I like to sit and chit-chatting and shit is so much more interesting to me and to listen to as well. Like it's so much more fun to do than sit there and answer, give us a brief history of the band.
Well, when you say it like that, I actually do want to hear that. When you use that voice. Travis, are there any other things about the band that you want people to know before we bounce out of this?
I thought of an answer to that recently. I don't remember. I just remember thinking, damn, that's a great answer to that question.
Hey, how much do you like the new guys in the band?
Dude, I love them. Ollie is, dude, our interpersonal dynamics, whatever you want to call it right now, has never been better.
Good.
I fucking love this band. We're back to having fun on stage. We're back to loving this.
You guys sound absolutely crushing live right now too.
Oh, thanks, man. And we finally got a sick sound guy that's part of the team. We got a team. That's the thing. That's that's the word. That's the thing we've never. I'm not going to say we never had it, but we never really did have a sound guy. We never had our guy. We play to a click now, too.
Makes a big difference. Both of those things make a huge difference.
It's a big fucking difference. It's still kind of weird for me. I'm used to more of an organic nature, but it's totally it's helped things a lot. And pretty soon, I finally got fitted for in-ears. I got some sick-ass in-ears made, actually. But now we have to go spend all the money to use them appropriately. And the second they come in the mail, everything got shut off. So I don't know if I'll ever even. I've been using it. I've been using them to mix and record fucking just weird trap and witch house covers and shit. My wife and I are doing.
That's your Twitch channel right there.
There you go,
dude. Speaking of Witch House, before we go, Sidewalk Skeletons or Skeletons on the Sidewalk or something like that. They're like one of the only still active Witch House artists. They just released an album, Sidewalks and Skeletons is what it's called.
Genre.
They're great.
Is so elusive to me. Like, it's so weird. It seemingly came out of nowhere. I first heard about it about 10 years ago.
It did.
It seemingly came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden,
it totally died.
I've never seen, White Ring, the lady from White Ring. I was in a band, I was playing drums for a band called Bleasure Grave, who is now Soft Kill. We played a show in New York City with them. And that was actually right about the time when I first heard, that was the first band I had ever heard, actually, as far as this genre goes. And then, that's the only band name that I truly know. I listen to this shit all the time, but really what I do is I just go to YouTube, type in Witch House Mix, and it's like you could hear subtle differences, I feel, in quality, but all of it is sick.
Oh, it's so good. And it died in like 2014.
The majority of it is super sick. I've never seen the same artist name twice. It's always something different. It's always someone I've never heard of. Just like it seemed like every other week there for a while, I'd wake up in the morning and find out that some prized, super beloved fucking SoundCloud rapper died and the entire world is in mourning. And I never heard their fucking name once. Little Peep.
Yeah.
I had never even heard a peep about Little Peep.
Yeah.
That joke should be dragged out in the street and shot, and for that reason, I love it.
And then, I go and I watch that documentary about him recently, and I learned that, this is actually a pretty sick move. I love most of that music, by the way. The rapping is what it is. Most of it's not really rapping or whatever, but I love that depressing, dark vibe. It's the stuff I always liked about gangster rap, but without all the fun, the gunshots and shit. It's just more depressing. Everybody's on benzos, and to me, it's kind of neat. It sounds cool, and dude. Honestly, I listen to more stuff like that than I do death metal or fucking. Yeah. Most touring bands don't really listen to, at least ones that have been going at it.
Well, hey, man, if I worked at a fucking pizza parlor for 20 years, I would never eat pizza ever again. So
great way to put it. Exactly. Exactly.
I can only listen to death metal for so long after having it be my job for the past 10 years. So
well, see, for me, death metal, it was the 90s. That's a time and place. It's everything else since then has been just, subgenres or offshoots of it or whatever. It hasn't been... and that's great. There's all these bands doing it. That's fine. I don't care. I'm sure they're great, but to me, it was a certain vibe, a certain time and place, or not really a place because it was all over the world. But I don't know. I'm still stuck in the 90s when it comes to death metal and fucking most metal. I'm stuck in the 80s and 90s still.
Well, hey, I think any of us that gets attached to a certain music. The music we heard first or when we were at a certain time in our life, we always gravitate back to that anyway. And that's not a knock on what's happening now. It's just, you'll never have that same personal attachment to it. It's just impossible.
Yeah. That's what's going on with our monolith of inhumanity. Like, people won't let that fucking record go. And I don't really think I've been calling it the Doom EP phenomenon.
Right.
Let's take, for an example job for a cowboy. People will not shut the fuck up about the Doom EP. Even though every note they organized after that fucking release destroys it in terms of quality and songwriting and this and that. Everything they did after that was just better. It was just, they became better musicians. That thing was done when they were kids, but people won't let it go. Not because it's this amazing piece of music, but because it hit a large segment of people all at the same time in their lives. And they will always forever romanticize that. And they will always be a part of them. The job is they're never going to escape that. And I think that's what happened with Monolith. And luckily it did, because, we could have just kept putting out records and then watched that curve go down. But instead it went in an upward trajectory. That's cool for the band. But I feel...
Doesn't always happen.
Yeah, I feel Anthropocene and Death Atlas destroy it. I go back and listen to it and I'm like, it's not even that it's that great of a record. It's just people... We got lucky. And so did Job for Cowboy. No offense. All these bands, and even us, we got lucky, I feel, because it hit... It's not to disparage anybody's hard work, but I think a lot of it is just timing and how it hit people at a certain time, because there's just nothing dissimilar about Anthropocene and Death Atlas from Monolith to where you can make this call that, this is so much better than the rest of this shit. It's not.
I'll tell you why I think that's the case. I remember being in the Metal Blade office, listening to the Harvest Floor, thinking, man, this is incredible. How are they going to top this? And then Monolith came out. And Monolith is such a huge jump. It took everything that was great about the Harvest Floor and ramped it up to 11. And I think that's one of the big reasons that people gravitate to Monolith, is it was really the beginning of the modern era of Cattle Decapitation. And that's what makes it special. That it was the first time that really happened. And there were little speckles of that on the Harvest floor, but the Harvest floor is very much a transitional record, in my opinion. So that might be one of the reasons. And look, speaking of a time and a place, I just wanted to mention one of the last shows I did see before lockdown was Mr. Bungle, Cattle Decapitation, and motherfucking Neil Hamburger, one of my favorite comedians. That show is incredible. I didn't even see you at that show. That thing was wild. It was one of the craziest mixes of crowds I've ever seen before. I bought a green Cattle shirt and a Mr. Bungle shirt.
I couldn't believe that it worked, man. I couldn't believe anyone gave a fuck. I was really impressed with the
people were amped for you guys. They were legitimately pumped.
Like Bungle fans they're kind of like Tool fans or whatever. They're a specific breed. They're
right.
A lot of people tend, it could be said that some people find them annoying or whatever. I don't know. They're very outspoken and blah, blah, blah. And set in their ways, I guess you could say, about loving the absolute fuck out of this band. And I just thought, I wasn't sure how much of it was going to cross over into the metal scene because, let's face it, man, what people know about Bungle is the first, or what people remember and love most, I feel, about Bungle is the first record. For me, I'm a Disco Volante.
Oh, Disco Volante all the fucking way.
I saw him play that in its entirety minus 2 songs in like 96 or whatever when it came out. And it was just one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen. I wasn't sure that, I thought it was going to be a bunch of those guys, a bunch of those fans. And I was just really astonished at how many metalheads there were, how many people actually did know us and gave a shit. We sold all of our shirts, it was sick. It was very eye-opening. And
yeah, I think between that, and this is something we've been addressing on the podcast here and there, Dragon Force went on tour with Dance with the Dead, and that was huge. You guys played with Mr. Bungle. Ghost took out Carpenter Brute like 2 years ago. I think weird touring lineups and things you wouldn't think work together sometimes do work together. And
Harm's Way and Ghostman.
Harm's Way and Ghostman was huge.
Yeah, man. Dude, there's a way to do it. Don't just throw shit together and hope sticks. There's a way to do it. It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
We've curated the last couple headliners we've done, and at least in the States or whatever, and it fucking worked. But I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Somewhere along the lines, you just kind of you get it. I think things like Psycho Las Vegas and certain European fests and stuff like that help. They kind of did help make it at least okay or acceptable or whatever in people's minds to mix these kind of things. I mean, we were going to take out Softkill. What kind of sense does that make? I don't know, but it does.
Yeah.
We could totally do it. I don't know. I don't know either, but it fucking works. And, for me, they also have to be an awesome band for one thing, but also, hopefully not dickheads.
Sure. Yeah.
We've learned the hard way. You don't want bands that, that are going to have issues with or whatever. And know your place is another thing.
Yeah. Touring is hard enough as it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I hope more diverse lineups and shit like that happens. I hope that this time off doesn't change that.
Yeah.
That's another thing. People are like, you take a year out of this. Say it's just a year and a half or whatever. I've been saying 12 to 16 months. It's what it sounds like in the, from the news or whatever. That's totally enough time for people to switch off of this lifestyle, that's concert going lifestyle or this kind of music, and go into something else. That's the one thing kind of worrying because, we're just on pause. We're going right back to it the second we can. And we have a fucking, what we feel is an awesome record to finally play for everybody. And it's, like I said before, it sucks that the second everybody has finally digested the thing is when we get told, no, you can't go out and play this stuff. It's like, fuck. We just got all of our production and
yeah,
we're ready to go. Hey, fuck. All right. Well, I could use this time off.
At least one time in my life, I got to shoot a picture. It was just on my phone, but it was worth it, of Neil Hamburger doing stand-up comedy on a big stage in between Cattle Decap's scrims.
Dude, please send it to me.
I will.
I watched downstairs. I watched a little bit of it. And then I talked to him afterwards. I'm a big fan of his old band, Faxed Head, from way back in the day. So I mentioned that to him, and he was just like startled that I even knew who they were. So we were, talking about that and stuff. And he's just super fucking cool. I don't know, that night was really crazy. Like Trey's wife told Denise, my wife, that like his favorite band or something like that, favorite metal band or some crazy shit like that. And I was just like, what? Like, what a fucking bizarre night, So it was like the beginning. It was a good kickoff for this year. It was the first show we did this year. Went to Australia, had all these sold out shows, all this sick ass shit, people going bonkers. Went to Japan, it was sick, and then boom. Now you're staying home for you don't even know how long.
Yeah. Well, hopefully all the people that shift out of this lifestyle are met by even more people that shift into this lifestyle.
That's the only way I know how to put it. It's something that I've been thinking about. We have a lot of time to sit around and stew on shit. And it's one of the things I was thinking about, just like, let's hope that, for the sake of being able to go out and tour and play shows and play music and do what we love, let's hope that doesn't become like a thing.
Yeah.
We'll see. Whatever. Anything could happen. Who knows? Anything can happen. Just look at the last month.
Yeah. Well, it's speculation at best, and I know I'm hungry for shows. I'm definitely hungry for comedy shows. Yeah, man. I'm hungry for it all once it's back, especially so.
I did a Zoom meeting with my family recently, and my niece actually married Frank Castillo, who he's a comic up in LA. He won the Comedy Central roast battle, and he does like writing for them and some of these roasts and shit like that. And I was talking to him, I asked him, I'm like, dude, you and I are in the same exact boat. Well, what's the deal? And luckily the Comedy Store, he works there. So luckily they're taking care of all their comics and their employees. And
yeah, it's cool to see.
Yeah, we're kind of fending for ourselves. And, we have merch and shit we could at least sell and stuff like that. I couldn't imagine being a comic. It's not like they have like some crazy merch booth and people are walking around with Frank Castillo koozies or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Comedians have a much harder time selling merch, and more often than not, the merch isn't very good anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a much different world. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us, man. I know, otherwise you were kind of not very busy anyway, but anything you need, we're right here. Just drop us an email or a call or a smoke signal or a Discord or a Zoom or a Skype or a Google chat. There's a couple 2-3 ways to talk to people these days.
Well, let me know if you guys need anything, and we'll be here. We need to do another video. So
let's talk about it. Yeah.
Did you say you're working on a Black Dahlia one right now?
I did. It's out. I did the removal of the oak and steak video.
It's out. Oh, that one. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So we'll talk.
It's a Vince production.
Yeah. Same thing with Verminous. So let's think about it.
Yeah, dude. Because I already told you those ideas. I still want to do the same song. I don't know that we have to do what I was talking about, but yeah,
we'll think on it.
I think that's the song to do.
Okay.
The one we did out the gate was such a depressing. I love it. It's my favorite thing we've ever done. But it was such a, pressing. I'd like to do, the extremes. We had this extremely depressing, very poignant, very relevant video, and then we did a fucking joke fest. So. Let's do something that's kind of in the middle of that, I guess.
All right, I'll knock it around the old brain box and see if I have any ideas, and you do the same, and we'll come together and make a sandwich.
Well, go look at the lyrics for Finish Them and tell me what you think, because that's the song I want to do.
All right, yeah, cool, we'll do. I remember looking at the lyrics when we were originally talking about it. I'll peel my eyes and look at it fresh, and we'll see what I come up with.
Who did that new Legion video?
The Roundabout?
Sorry, I guess it's not new. It's probably been out for a year. The one that starts with the CGI that you guys are playing like in the darkness or something.
That's are you talking about the Planet one?
Yeah,
that's Robert Mestis.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He did the Black Dahlia murder receipt video as well. He did a video for Act of Defiance. He's done a couple really cool ones. He's an LA dude. He's awesome.
Okay.
But he also, he's another guy to think about for some weird off the wall projects too. 'Cause that's another thing. We know a lot of creators in and around our scene that probably their work is dried up, that we could probably think about trying to get some projects their way and creating some budgets. I don't know, just spitballing, but yeah, the whole scene kind of really has to help each other out these days. So the more we kind of think about it and reach out to people, and we'll see. Some cool things will definitely come out of this.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
I'm gonna end this podcast with saying, Travis, let's make a fucking Witch House EP. Let's collab on some spooky shit, bro.
Man, that's the thing. Like everybody, like of course, now's the time. Everyone's like, I'm sitting here going, "Fuck yeah, I'm gonna get stuff finally together in my life." And now everybody's just like, "Hey, dude, let's do this," and all the ideas. I'm like, fuck, I gotta do all this other shit.
But my guest performer bank account has never been bigger. So that's good.
What do you use to make shit like that? Dude, I use dumbass GarageBand presets. I'm just fucking around. I don't know how to do it.
I use Ableton and tons of different like plugins. It's really not about like, because you can use basic ass presets. It's really about how you fuck with them in post and what kind of plugins you're using to make them sound unique. But
I really love trap beats, dude. Like trap stuff. That's the beats. Those are the kind of beats that I use. You'll see. I'm going to be putting out a song we did a cover of this woman, Edith Frost. She's this like 90s folk singer, kind of indie rock kind of folk singer that we're huge fans of. And we did a cover one of her songs that we'll be releasing soon, but it's total like trap beats with super deep, sub bass and shit like that. But, and then Witch House kind of, synths and sawtooth kind of stuff. And,
oh yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
I don't know. It's fun. See, and I started working on that shit a couple years ago, and now we're actually able to. We got a guitar solo on there and shit. Now we got all this stuff. I'm actually like, it's kind of cool. See, if people could only look at it like, I guess really the thing everybody's worried about the most is their income and shit like that. Like, nope, not everybody else has the ability to just work out of their house like some of us have been able to. And
yeah, we're pretty goddamn lucky, that's for sure.
Yeah, and make something happen, make something new, or do something that you haven't been able to do because there was no time. Like,
well, thanks for spending some time with us, man. We'll let you get back. We'll let you get back to Modern Warfare and your lovely wife, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
For sure, man. You guys take it easy, and good talking to you. I don't know. We'll talk to you soon.
Cool.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Travis.
Catch you later, dude.
All right, babes. Take it easy.
Later.
All right.
Later.
See ya.
Hey.
We're back. That was Travis from Cattle Decapitation. Do I have to say we're back? This is a podcast. This isn't live radio. You just didn't hear a commercial about which mattress you should buy. I don't know how any of this works.
We're back.
Well, you know what? We're back anyway.
So, man, I feel great under quarantine. I don't know about you guys. I have a really nice home work setup, but I have these weird physical manifestations of stress, right? I woke up the other night and I had cramps in the bottom of my feet, and I have this weird tightness in my neck where it's kind of laborious to swallow. And it's everything I look online is stress, but I feel awesome. So I don't know what's going on. I think
your body might just think you're dying. I think that,
right?
The lack of like sunshine and fresh air is just like, well, time to shut it down.
Right. I feel as if I'm, edibles and day drinking only make you so happy for so long, and then you're bored of that somehow.
I think maybe you've stored up years of stress in your muscles, and it's just going to take years of massaging them out to be a normal person again, probably.
I think you're totally
exercising
right.
demons.
Yeah, I've had a couple, I think 2 or 3 professional massages in my life, and every time I had one, I thought, wow, I need to do this more. And every time I've had one, I've had the massage therapist touch my back and go, oh my.
Dude, I've rubbed your back before, just like kind of joking around, and it's like steel cabling in there.
Yeah, you're actually really good at it, man. Years of touring in bands.
Yeah.
You're good at dude massages.
Got to
This is fucking awesome.
rub your fellow
exactly
dudes down.
the same way.
So the segue I'm building there poorly is music really helps purge stress. This isn't a fucking secret,
Sure.
whether it's metal or whatever. And this is ultimately a music podcast, so let's fucking talk about music. Volkor X or Volkor 10, I don't know. VOLKOR and the letter X. Have you heard of that, Riley?
I have not.
Badass.
I am actually very,
synthwave.
very interested in hearing.
Fucking awesome. It's just badass synthwave. It's something I've been diving into a ton. I'm going to look up the album title because I don't recall it exactly, but it just came out. Hold on. It's on Bandcamp. It's This Is Our Planet Now is the new album from Volkor X. Fucking rips.
We could probably do a whole synthwave section, really.
It's weird, right? We talk about it all the time, but there's so much crossover between metal and synthwave.
Yeah.
Speaking of metal and synthwave crossover, well, not quite metal, but there is a band that I've been listening to a lot of called Essinger, like messenger without the M. Fantastic. It's a little bit more on like the kind of angsty side of things as far as the metal crossover world goes, but the synth production is so sick. I discovered them because a synthwave artist that I am already into called Pilot with a Y, so Y instead of an I, collabed with him recently, and so good. Still up and coming. I don't think that Essinger really has much of a name in the synthwave scene yet, but give that a couple years, and based on the quality of the music, it is definitely going to be a thing.
I'll throw mine in. If you haven't checked out Laserhawk yet, definitely do that. Awesome synthwave. They have a really kind of more chill album, and then they have some really kind of heavy, more hype stuff too. So if you're into anything like that, check them out.
Laserhawk is fantastic.
Yeah, Laserhawk rules. So I in the more metal world, I had to look this up on February 20th. I feel like such a jerk saying this, but on February 20th, I tweeted, I'd listen to @Discarnet on my drive home, but it's dangerous enough as it is to navigate LA traffic. Holy shit, this band rips. And Zach from Whitechapel replied, that's what I've been trying to tell everyone, man. And Discarnet had some dates with Whitechapel in the UK that were all scrapped. Discarnet, Riley, have you listened to them?
I have listened to Discarnet, and they are real good.
It's you can't even really legitimately call it hardcore. It's as if Hatebreed, Cannibal Corpse, and Nails had a baby, right?
It's just pissed off. It's just pissed off music. That is the best way I can describe it. There's no genre attachment that I can really apply to Discarnet other than that they just sound like audible anger.
Testosterone is the genre.
Oh, they're so good.
So they their album from 2017, the most recent, With All Their Might, there's a song called Iron Strengthens Iron, and it came out in Unique Leader, and man, that fucking song. And this is the power of one song that really grabs people and playlisting on places like Spotify. Iron Strengthens Iron for Discarnet has 1.6 million streams. Their next highest song is 346,000.
Well, speaking of playlisting, I actually discovered that band listening to the Extreme Metal Workout playlist on Spotify. And if there's any band or song that deserves to be on a workout playlist, that is the song for sure.
You work out to Discarnet, you're a week away from bench pressing a house.
I'm telling you, yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah. So it's weird, right? Working from home, you don't want to just listen to Cannibal Corpse all day. You can for a little while. So for me, it's a weird mix of diving in between different genres based on the mood I need to create to be productive.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Well, that's one thing I actually really like about Spotify is they understand that even if you listen to metal all day long, you probably listen to something chill at some point too. And they kind of see that those different genres are happening, and they'll make different playlists specifically for you. Like they'll make me a metal playlist, but then they'll also make me a chill ambient playlist, and they'll make me a synthwave playlist, which I think is really smart.
The daily mix feature on Spotify has been a lifesaver for my musical refreshment on many occasions.
Yeah, it's really just, Pandora was kind of the first to really go balls to the wall with finding music that people would like. And Pandora still to this day is fed by humans. It's people making a lot of those decisions. That's why I actually complained to Pandora that it takes a minute for our music to go up live there, but it's because they have people inputting manually metadata to provide that information. Because when I was doing radio, I was the program director of the college station, and you guys may or may not know this, but radio is driven by clocks. And the software on the back end, you build a clock, and songs are categorized into subcategories that are plotted on clocks. So new songs might be an A, songs a few months old might be B, older than that, C. Then there's another category called recurrence, like kind of old hits. And clocks are built to have X amount of A songs in an hour or X amount of B songs. And the way the broadcast software for radio knows to play things is by metadata that the program director inputs into that song. So that you won't have a really fast song go into a really slow song without a radio ID sweeper, because it would be weird. To keep those transitions really cool and sounding good. So Pandora has people actually inputting that manually. And on the other side of the spectrum, Spotify is entirely driven based on user input on listeners.
Right.
I've had bands reach out and say, "Hey, how do I get Slipknot added to my fans also like?" Well, you'd have to tell all of your fans to listen to Slipknot. That's how it works. There's no other way to do that. So music is, as much as modern music is art, it's also this weird fucking modern math tech problem. It's crazy.
Yeah, you're feeding your own algorithm. I have that same kind of issue on YouTube where I want the algorithm to feed me videos I like, so I'll kind of like prune my history to get it right. It's almost the same way on Spotify and Apple Music, where you better listen to the stuff you like mostly, because if you throw in some oddballs just to make someone laugh, it's going to start feeding you those too.
Oh man, a friend of mine back in Milwaukee had a Spotify hacked. We say hacked. What really happened? It was phished. He was stupid with his password. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hacked really means phished, and I was dumb.
Yeah.
Make your passwords hard. Change your passwords.
Right.
Whatever. In any case, he's pissed because his history got all fucked up, and he can't go back and fix it. You cannot remove something from your Spotify history.
That's funny.
So he has all these suggestions of music he hates. And he can only fix it by moving forward and listening to things he likes.
Try to get it out of there. That's funny.
Yeah, but he also
put on a playlist when he goes to sleep at night. Just let it roll.
Yeah.
Right? So that same guy also just got a VR system from Steam.
Oh,
nice. That Half-Life Alex, man.
He has it.
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah.
What does he say about it?
He marathoned 6 hours yesterday. He said it's life-changing, and he wishes he didn't have his wife and kids around right now.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I've heard about that. But we could talk about all that stuff later. I have some music recommendations, if I may.
Dive in.
So, obviously, New Black Dahlia Murder, Verminous, killer.
Yay.
Like, so good. And I'm sure as people who have been routed here from other Metal Blade affiliated sources have seen tons being posted about it already, so I won't spend too much time on that, but it is an amazing record. Definitely listen to it if you have not already. New Aransi Pazuzu, one of my favorite bands ever, who I have a really tragic story about. On the last Allegiant headlining tour, we were going to be... So if you're in a touring band, you may as well never count on seeing the shows that you want to see, because chances are that while other bands are taking advantage of good touring seasons, you're going to be taking advantage of a good touring season as well. So oftentimes I'll see a lineup get announced and be super stoked, just, knee-jerk reaction, and then look up the dates and figure out that I'm going to be on the other side of the country. Such was the case with Aransi Pazuzu. They are a band from Finland. They are like a psychedelic rock meets black metal band. It is fantastic stuff if you have not heard it already. And their last and I want to say first North American tour that they did, I was going to be on tour as well. So I kind of wrote it off, was like, maybe someday I'll see them over in their neck of the woods. But then I found out that we were sharing a venue in Arizona. And we were in one room and they were in the other room. And
Nice.
I just about shit my pants.
Nice.
That's great.
I was so stoked. Well, hear me out, because I remember I told you this was a tragic story. So, so I talked to the promoter and I'm like, hey, like this band that's in your other room, like I have been trying to see them for years and years. What can I see like their show schedule? And she's like, yeah, no problem. Hands it to me. And we are literally playing at the exact same time slots. Like their show maybe lasted 5 minutes longer than ours, but I had to like pack down and get off stage, go do merch. And by the time all that was done, I walked into the other room and caught the last minute or so of their set, which was basically just like an ambient drone. But anyway, great band. I love them to death. They just released a new album called Mestarin Kinsey. They are Finnish, and all of their lyrics and songs and albums are also in Finnish, but it means the nail of the master in English. Super, super good stuff. If you are just trying to vibe on something, Aranci Pazuzu is a good way to do it. Aborted also came out with a new EP called La Grande Mascarade.
So good.
Dude, it's so good. It's nothing really out of the box. It's what you would expect and what you would want from Aborted. And it hits that sweet spot real good. Love those dudes.
Love it.
And then I think my last new music recommend is that new Ulcerate, Stare into Death and Be Still. Ulcerate is a New Zealandic band. This album actually has not come out at the time that we are recording this, but they did do a full album stream, I want to say on Decibel, that is still up there.
Metal Injection. Anyway, it'll be out by the time this airs. So
yeah, by the time this airs, it should be out for a little bit, and it is so good. Like one of those jaw-dropping musical experiences for me.
That's really cool. I've never really, I'm peripherally aware of Ulcerate, but I've never put in the time. And, it's one of those ones that I've always thought I really need to go out of my way to dive into.
If you want to take 3 hours to hear in explicit detail what it sounds like for a band to grow and mature as musicians, listen to the Ulcerate discography. The first album of theirs that I got into, the name is totally escaping from me right now, but it came out in like 2009, and it's just like chaotic, technical, just angry sounding, just so visceral. And now you look at where they are now with this new one, Stare into Death and Be Still, and there's just so much atmosphere. Like it's such a mature feeling album for this band. So definitely check out Ulcerate. They are fantastic from New Zealand.
nice.
Very, very good band.
Hey, Ryan, I wanted to ask you, unless you had something specific you wanted to bring up.
No, go ahead.
So you worked on Verminous for Black Dahlia, as you've done for a bunch of their previous albums.
Yeah.
What did you specifically do on this album?
I specifically engineered and recorded the drums, and we did that in Michigan at a place called the Pipe Yard Studio with this guy Nick and another guy Josh, who are kind of the local engineers there. Recorded Alan. I mean, it's funny because they don't have to have me come and help with their albums, but they still ask me to come work on them, which is like really cool. And I really appreciate it. And I really love those guys, and being able to go in the studio with them, even if it's just for recording just the drums, say, is still a really fun experience. This time I would say it was more stressful. It's always stressful because listen, those guys are an extremely tight, well-oiled machine. They tour nonstop, and they just take a few months off to write and record. And if you know anything about extreme music, you know that the drumming is one of the most technical and difficult aspects of it. And they'll still be finishing songs when Alan is in the studio tracking his drums. So he has very little time to actually learn and practice the songs before he's expected to play them perfectly in the studio and record them. So it was really stressful. He was stressing out. I was stressing out trying to keep him calm. But it was really fun, and I was glad to be involved again. And I'm really thankful that they still have me be part of the production. So yeah.
It's a good thing that Alan is an absolute unit and is such a good drummer.
He's great, and I think he's kind of underrated. I don't really know why that is. I'm not sure if maybe he just he's starting to put himself out there more now with playthroughs and his own YouTube channel and things like that. And I think maybe
I gotta help him build a Twitch.
Yeah, that would be great.
He's, as a drummer myself, I look at drums more than I look at anything else. And as musicians, you can relate to the fact that I'm definitely not as good as people like Alan, but I know when people are good. And he's really exceptional at coming up with creative patterns and not cliche fills. Well, and there's times where cliche fills are the best fill.
Yeah.
But man, sometimes even just straight up the whole part, like the beat is something where I hear it and I go, I would have never thought to have done that. That's wild.
Well, one of his favorite drummers is actually Braun from Mastodon, which
there you go.
You might not really think of, but with those really creative patterns and fills, I mean, that kind of really plays right into that,
Yeah, there were few more wacky than that guy. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
you can always tell. Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, you can always tell in drummers who knows their rudiments and who is really familiar with that, that left, right kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because it shows in the creativity in their fills. A lot of the drummers that just play by feel can come up with creative stuff every once in a while. But it's really those drummers that know their theory and know their, like I said, their rudiments, that come up with the super cool stuff. And I hear that a lot in Alan's drumming, and you can see it. And even in his videos, it's like, you can see that prowess and that technique, being exhibited. So yeah, I love his stuff. He's a fantastic drummer.
Those habits and sticking patterns really make a difference in being able to play technically difficult parts, but also being able to play them with any sort of regularity and efficiency. It's pretty cool to watch. So yeah, I mean that's really what I wanted to ask you, Ryan, is if there are any specific challenges or weirdness with putting any of those parts together and playing it in the studio. I know, and we don't have to dive into Black Dahlia forever.
I could talk probably for 2 hours just about that.
Well,
really,
I'll just ask one more thing. He practiced parts on an electronic kit to save the drum heads for tracking, so you'd have to change heads and tune heads less.
Yeah.
But, are there any specific parts that you want to just talk about for a minute that you both were like, holy shit, that came out way better than we thought?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I will say that his work ethic and dedication was really inspiring on this. And he was at the limit of his ability to learn and remember and perform, which if you've never been in the studio with someone who's, okay, it's easy for a bass player or a guitar player to punch in. You can play 5 notes and then punch in the next 5 notes. On a drum set, you cannot do that just because of the way that the editing works. I mean, you can punch in, but it's not recommended.
Cymbal noise.
Yes.
Just cymbal noise alone. Like you can't fuck with having to record cymbals with drums underneath.
Yes, exactly. So you're limited a lot more on how you can punch in. So you basically at least have to do big sections of the song at once. So he would be practicing on the E-kit, like you said, a song that he maybe just learned maybe a few days ago to maybe a week ago. So he'd come in, he'd start warming up, playing the song that he was going to record that day. He'd turn around. He literally had the E-kit where he could swivel around 180, play the E-kit, play all the parts, and then swivel around to his actual kit and record them. So he'd be practicing, the next section of the song, getting it down. and then we'd go to record it, and like you could just see his hard drive filling up in his brain. Like it was just the absolute maximum that he could do to get that album done, because he didn't have a lot of time. Because ideally, you would write songs maybe 6 months before you record. The whole band would get together and play them. You'd kind of work it all out. You'd get a good feel for them. They don't have that kind of time luxury with the time pressures that they put on themselves. So, he would be learning songs and then recording them that day sometimes. And I really just give it up to him. And we all worked really hard to get it done. So huge shout out to Alan. I know he feels good about it now, but at the time he was like, it was the end of the world when he was in the studio on a few different days. So I'm just glad we got it done. And I hope that on the next album, they give themselves a little more leeway and a little more time to prepare before going in.
Yeah, that's always really interesting things to hear. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Riley, you want to talk about video games or what?
I would love to talk about video games.
Video games.
So I brought up the VR thing. I haven't played it yet. My friend has it. The next time I can go to Wisconsin, I'll definitely play it. But I know you wanted to mention at least No Man's Sky. And I think that's an interesting story in that when it came out, it was wildly disappointing, but it's become a success over time.
So I think that Ryan actually wants to talk about No Man's Sky.
I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the notes here, and I thought that was Riley's notes, and these are Ryan's notes.
I did all the blue notes.
the fact that I can remember even what day it is in a world where every day is Sunday is a minor miracle. So get off my back.
But yes, No Man's Sky, Ryan.
Sure. Well, listen, I was extremely hyped for this game when it first started coming out. Like the entire video game community was basically around 2015. They were at E3. The main guy from Hello Games, his name is Sean Murray. He was doing interviews all over. He was on Colbert Report. I mean, this was like, it was mainstream, this game. Like people were talking about it. And the main reason people were talking about it is because it was one of the first big games that used procedural generation to create a huge universe. So there's something like 10 quintillion planets in this game. And it's not because, a programmer sat there and programmed all of those planets, but they used an algorithm and clever math and all this stuff to make a self-generated universe that could be created on the fly on your computer, basically. So it was really hyped. It was supposed to be the greatest thing ever. All the video game press was all over every little leak, every little news story was front page. And I'm sure anyone who paid attention knows that when the game came out, it was a huge disappointment. All of these features that were supposedly in the game, like multiplayer, weren't actually in the game. And, the community really shit on them. And rightly so at the time, because it was overhyped. It was promised to be all these things that it didn't end up being. There was a whole dynamic with Sony, the distributor and publisher, putting pressure on them to get it out at a certain time, and it didn't deliver. But the really cool thing about it in the end was, instead of just taking all this money, because they had, millions of dollars in pre-orders, it was the top selling game on the PlayStation Store for a long time. It made a ton of money, but instead of just taking that money and bailing on the community, Sean Murray took all of the criticism, he put it in different folders. He took all of that criticism, went directly to his phone, and they got to work on actually implementing all the things they promised. And now, a few years later, I've actually got into the game. My friend bought it for me, and it's great. And they don't have microtransactions. They don't have paid DLC. They don't have any of the crap that really annoys gamers now. They just got to work on delivering, and it's a really great redemption story. It's a really cool game now. And it shows you that even in a industry where there is a lot of shady business practices, there are good independent developers. And even though they were seen as, dishonest and all this stuff, that eventually they pulled through and they really just kept at it and kept working and kept putting out free updates to the point now where it's actually a really cool and fun game. And I'm glad to really see that happened.
God, imagine if Activision and EA took a page out of that book.
Yeah.
Right? You know, oh, we released a partially complete game. Well, don't worry, we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
it would be nice to see that from a AAA developer. So
Well, isn't
on
that
them.
part of the larger idea that you're not beholden to fans, you're beholden to shareholders.
Right.
Yeah.
And the difficulties of having a publicly traded company with stocks, where there's an episode of Silicon Valley in one of the earlier seasons with Jack Barker talking to Richard Hendricks about what is your product? And Richard Hendricks said, it's not me, is it? And he goes, oh God, no, your product is your stock. And I think the show really framed that as being negative, maybe not in a super overt way, but yeah, isn't the point of art in video games in their own way are art to please the gamer and not to meet a quarter revenue target for shareholders? Otherwise, the stock price dips $1.50.
Right.
It's a weird world we live in, right? Where it's a lot more complex than is it done or is it not? Is this done enough to salvage our stock price for Q1 2021 or something?
Right.
It's fucking crazy. And it's a different world than music. I mean, Cattle took a long time between records. And I've seen people on Twitter talking about, oh, why do you have to put out an album every 2 years for a band? They really don't. It's just a function of having a new album approximately every 2 years keeps the touring cycles fresh and keeps offers coming in for European festivals or support slots for tours. You need a new record to really make the argument that, hey, put us on this tour, because there's a lot of new marketing around new albums. And tours and festivals would rather have bands that have fresh marketing initiatives than a record that's been out for 3 years. So there are things that I think fans feel happen for these really weird, backhanded, awful reasons, when it's really more larger machinations of the market as a whole. And the market is inclusive of fans plus the people that work in it on a day-to-day basis. And gaming and music have that in common a little bit, where time frames are certainly important. And, bigger companies certainly do fuck up, but in a lot of ways it's because they really have to maintain those prices. Otherwise, that executive doesn't see that multi-million-dollar bonus or something. I don't know. It's
right.
wild,
Well,
man.
in gaming, it creates this kind of cool, when you have such a huge gap in the dichotomy between art and business, as is such in the gaming industry, you get this really cool byproduct where indie developers just do the wildest shit.
Absolutely.
And all these indie game companies are so on the cusp. And a lot of the people that lead these companies, who are, business savvy enough to run a company that has decently sized budgets and tons of employees and developers and all that kind of stuff, also have this attitude where it's like, come to me with the stupidest idea you have, and that's what we'll go with. Because you need that in that, like I said, when there's such a huge gap in that dichotomy, you need that just crazy avant-garde, off the wall vibe coming out of your, business in order to make a splash in a pond that is so heavily occupied with, fish that are made out of stockholder shares and, and partially created games and all this kind of stuff. So there's two sides to it. I feel there's the gross corporate greed side, and there's the really cool creative byproduct side I love.
It's the same effective difference of Rihanna versus the Black Dahlia murder.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And not as if Rihanna, she hasn't put out music in a long time, but you understand what I'm saying. The one indie game I will drop here is Pummel Party. It's PC. The developer is a small one. Let me look it up here on Steam. It is a developer called Rebuilt Games, and it's Mario Party, but it's so much better than the new Mario Party on Switch. It's stupid. Some friends and I have been playing it the last couple weeks, and it's some of the most fun I've had gaming in a long, long time.
Nice. I'm going to get that tonight and play that with you.
Yeah, it's a full-on indie developer. It's a really unhinged, wacky game. It is just Mario Party, but there's blood, wacky weapons, turn-based. You get the idea. It's awesome. So yeah,
love it.
what the weirdness of the industry creates is the ability for small developers and small labels like Metal Blade to be wickedly quick and flexible, whereas some of the bigger companies really have to be a little bit more rigid because there's so much more at stake.
Right.
Before
So,
we
yeah,
go,
there you go.
I have to ask Riley about Final Fantasy VII Remake real
go for it.
real quick.
Oh my god. It's so good. It's so
Is it?
good. Oh my god, it's so good. Okay, so I am a huge Final Fantasy fan. Like
Uh-huh.
I have a number of Final Fantasy tattoos from 7 to 10 to having a gigantic all-inclusive Final Fantasy back piece.
Oh shit.
I am dedicated to that franchise. I love Final Fantasy, and obviously remakes are kind of hot right now.
Yeah.
You know, with Capcom basically exclusively producing Resident Evil remakes at this point, which
Right.
are all fantastic. Don't get me wrong.
right.
But it's a hot thing right now to remake old classics and with modern technology.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's always these creative liberties that are oftentimes taken too far.
Yeah.
And you have this weird shell of what once was, and all the charm is lost, and it just becomes a mess. With Final Fantasy VII Remake, that is absolutely not the case.
That's great to hear.
There's some stuff that they added, for sure. There were creative liberties that were taken, but I feel like those creative liberties not only generated more love and attachment for the characters through proper development and inclusion into the storyline, but also added elements that are going to be interesting to see play out in the next couple of installments. So, as you may or may not know, it's not the whole game. This is just part 1 that they released.
Oh, really?
If you have played the game before, the original Final Fantasy VII, this section goes up until you leave Midgar and go onto the world map. So there's no.
That was my guess. Yeah, as soon as I heard about it, that was my guess. The first part was going to get you out of Midgar? Yeah,
It is. It gets you out of Midgar, and that's it. But that's where it ends. But the thing is that it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there are so many incredible character dynamics, story elements, plot devices that they didn't really add. They just like expanded upon. It's like things that were in the original that didn't really have an explanation, so you kind of just forgot about them or pushed them off to the wayside. But then you learn through playing this remake that they were actually originally meant to be important story elements. It's super cool.
Cool.
And then, you know, some things that were kind of dialed back, like there's a scene in the Midgar building where you have to deal with the mayor of Midgar. And in the original,
the Shinra building.
Shinra building. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, get it together.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm talking about what a fan I am. Can't even get the names right. But yeah, in the Shinra building, you have to talk to the mayor of Midgar. And in the original, it's this kind of tedious process where you have to go into these libraries and, you know, look at like the number at the beginning of the title of the book and then find out which book doesn't belong and then count the number. And then each one of those numbers is representative of a letter, and each letter paired with the other letters from the other libraries create a word. It's a pain in the dick.
Yeah,
and
it sucked.
they did away with that for that particular part of the story. And it like the encounter with the mayor is much more glancing. So they dialed back on some things that were a little bit tedious, and they expanded on some things that had room for growth. And it's just so perfectly done. I cannot speak enough praise for this game. It takes about 40 hours to run through initial playthrough, but then there is also New Game Plus with hard mode. If you're a completionist like me, who is trying to get that platinum trophy, you are in for at least 60 hours. If you are very highly skilled, I'm probably going to dump about 80 to 90 hours into this game by the time I'm done with it. So it's amazing, and I cannot wait for the next installment.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that was another episode of the Metal Blade podcast. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. And as always, follow Metal Blade on social media at Metal Blade on Twitter, Instagram, Metal Blade Records, YouTube, Metal Blade Records, and pop on over to Facebook and check out the Blade Brigade Facebook group. Tell us what sucks. Tell us what doesn't. You know the drill. Thanks for hanging out.